So Mark Zuckerberg has launched his app Threads. They call it the Twitter killer. And I signed up to check it out, and it is awful. I'm not just trying to play some stupid tribal games. The main feed on Threads is a bunch of random people I don't follow. So I sign up for this new Twitter killer, and I'm like, all right, let's check this out. And I go to my homepage, and there's like some dude named Roderick talking about how him and J-Boys was going down to the Quartz Hall for a new drink. And I'm like, I have no idea what this guy's talking about. I don't want to follow him, and you have to block them. And so people are literally like, well, I guess what you do is if you see a post you don't like, block the person so you never see it again. Like the whole thing is this. I'm getting a bunch of weird brands and garbage I don't care about. But anyway, it sucks. But we'll talk more about it and where it's at, because sure enough, there is room to improve. And some people are excited there's an alternative to Twitter because some people are still banned on Twitter. But here's where it gets interesting. Twitter is threatening to sue Meta for stealing trade secrets. Why? According to Twitter, Mark Zuckerberg hired Twitter employees who had access to proprietary information from Twitter, which they used to make the new app. Very interesting. So we'll see. Right now, a cease and desist letter was sent out. Elon Musk called it cheating. We'll talk a bit about that. And then as it pertains to good old Joe Biden, oh boy, politics, you gotta love it. Apparently, the cocaine they found was actually near the Situation Room. Yeah, not just the West Wing. Dan Bongino mentioned that this has got to be someone in the family, someone who can bypass security. And that's exactly what we're saying. But hey, he would know better than we would. So I think everybody kind of knows where that stuff came from. So we'll talk about that. Also got a bunch more little stories here. We do have another big one with Joe Biden. They're effectively trying to overturn the First Amendment. You know, I want to avoid being hyperbolic, but the filing from the Biden administration seeks to grant them the authority to have private organizations censor the political speech of people they don't like. And it is an unprecedented move. It's insane. Effectively, the Biden administration is filing an appeal for the right to bypass the First Amendment. Shockingly insane. So we'll talk about that. Before we do, my friends, head over to castbrew.com and join the Cast Brew Coffee Club. If you like really good coffee and you want the best, you're going to buy from Cast Brew. And you'll also be supporting the work we do because this is our company. We're sponsoring ourselves. You can join the Cast Brew Coffee Club where you will get 3 bags of coffee every month. We've got Rise with Roberto Jr., a light roast. We've got Appalachian Nights, a dark roast. I got to be honest, I think Appalachian Nights is the best coffee I've ever had. You know, I'm the one who formulated it, so surprise, surprise, I made what I liked. They come in whole bean or ground. And again, castbrew.com, we're currently working on setting up a coffee shop. We may even actually launch a second location before we even get started, just so we can speed things up. Also, don't forget to go to timcast.com, click join us, become a member, because we're going to have a members only uncensored show, 10 p.m. tonight, where you as a member actually can submit questions and perhaps even call in and talk to us and our guests. So smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is Lauren Chen.
Thank you for having me. Super stoked to be here.
Absolutely. Who are you?
So my name is Lauren Chen. I am a Blaze TV host as well as a TPUSA contributor, and I also make videos on YouTube. So I have my own channel, Lauren Chen, and another channel, Mediaholic, where we talk about pop culture, entertainment, movie reviews, and then my main channel is more current events, social and political issues. And I basically am everywhere on social media, and I don't know, I feel like I'm often very angry on social media. There's a lot of things to talk about politically in terms of entertainment that are not going well. So I guess I'm an angry person online.
This is what we do. We complain about things on the internet for a living.
Yeah. But then it's like we're making content. That's content. People are watching it. They like it.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for hanging out. It should be fun. We got Phil Labonte. He's here.
How you doing? I am Phil Labonte, lead singer of All That Remains, anti-communist and counter-revolutionary. Good to see you guys.
Hi, everybody. Ian Crossland, ready to rock and roll. Let's move it.
Alrighty, Ian. As you say, I'm Serge.com. Ready when you are, Tim.
Check out this story from ABC News. Twitter sends Meta cease and desist letter over new Threads app, say sources. Now, this is confirmed. Elon Musk has even called it out. He said competition is fine, cheating is not. Twitter Daily News tweeting, Twitter is threatening to sue Meta over systematic, willful, and unlawful misappropriation of Twitter's trade secrets and IP, as well as scraping of Twitter's data in a cease and desist letter sent yesterday to Zuckerberg by Elon's lawyer, Alex Spiro. I have to wonder. Recently, we heard that Twitter was limiting how many tweets you could see, and they said it's because people were stealing data. I wonder if it's because Elon found out Meta was actually scraping data to use for their new app.
I mean, Mark Zuckerberg doing something untoward in regard to like intellectual property, that doesn't sound right, guys. Mark Zuckerberg wouldn't do that. It's not like he has a history of that with the very creation of Facebook.
To be fair, his history of trying to create rival alternative social media platforms has not fared too well for him.
That's true.
They tried to do a Signal type thing, didn't work out. They tried to do a Snapchat type thing, didn't work out. I am pretty sure Threads will not work out. Look, man, it might, but it is a really bad platform. There are people on the left who are tribally just saying, "Woo, it's so much better," and I'm just like, dude, you log into the app. I'm gonna log in right now. I'm gonna pull it up, and So first of all, it's recommending AOC to me like crazy. I do not follow AOC on this, and let's see what it wants me to. So there are people I follow, and I do see their posts. Okay, what's this? Puberty. What Puberty?
I've seen Puberty before.
The largest and most populated city on earth, Tokyo, Japan. That's a cool picture. I don't care.
I follow them on Instagram, where I at least get recommended them a lot. I think they're just like a general interest kind of now
same.
this or something.
Paris Hilton. Oh, that's great. Let's see. Complex Magazine. Don't know what that is. Ellen DeGeneres. Not interested. I don't know who that person is. I don't know who that person is. Like these are people posting things about like their day that have nothing. Like I'm getting recommended the dude who made Threads. I don't care about this. Look, my whole feed. Look at this. Like none of it is people I follow. So getting tweets, the Threads from Microsoft. Yo, I don't want to look at a feed of random advertisements. That's what it is. It's all ads. It's the algorithm saying, here's something you might like. Here's something I don't like it. I don't like it. What am I supposed to do? You can't turn it off.
Is when you sign up for Threads, does it connect to your Facebook account?
You can have it connect to your Instagram.
So how do you download it anyway?
I think you go to, well, it's in the Play Store, but I had to go to threads.net to download it.
Is it called Threads?
It's like Threads, a Meta app or something like this.
Okay.
It's recommending me Ted Cruz. Okay, I don't follow Ted Cruz or AOC. At least it's not just AOC. Jubilee Media. What is this one? The Blaze TV. I don't follow The Blaze. No,
Okay,
but seriously.
they get suspended all the time. So you know.
It is weird that it's recommending The Blaze to me. Look, that's not the least of it. It's very limited in what's available to do on the platform. But there's the one thing I said on Threads as to why it's not that good. Look, I don't care what my favorite nature photographer has to say at all. I don't follow people on Instagram. I follow people who play poker. I follow people who skateboard, who scoot, who BMX, some nature, like a couple like travel people and some parkour people. I'm not on Instagram for a news feed. So when I start Threads and it's like, here are the people you follow, it's like, oh, sure, like I follow PragerU and a few people for some of their political stuff, but it's mostly not. Here's ultimately what I think. And the reason why I bring up the algorithmic feed, I think what the powers that be feared the most in terms of social media was curated feeds, which created tribes and hives. People go on Twitter, they follow only the opinions they like, and they create these bubbles where they separate themselves from everybody else. I think what Instagram wants to do, what Mark Zuckerberg wants to do, YouTube does the same thing. They want to eliminate the ability for you to create a curated feed. This has been true on YouTube forever. Subscriptions on YouTube are completely meaningless and have been for 10 years. Everybody knows that when
the homepage.
Yeah, when you subscribe to a channel, it doesn't matter. You're not going to get fed that content. It's going to be whatever's on the homepage.
Right.
So YouTube chooses if you're actually there and gives this impression that your subscriber count matters, but it really doesn't. It really doesn't. Instagram, Meta, they want to do the same thing with Twitter. So that when you sign up for Threads, they're really hoping that it does shut down Twitter. And then this is what the future will be. You will be forced to follow the likes of the Young Turks. You'll be forced to follow the likes of AOC or Ted Cruz. Perhaps they think it will be a healing thing to bring the sides together so that everyone will have a shared narrative. But let's be real. They've already censored DC Drano. If you try to follow, there was a post where they were showing if you try to follow him, it warns you that he's fake news. We know exactly where it's going. You're going to follow conservative and libertarian, disaffected liberals. Those are going to get deranked without you knowing. They're going to prop up people like AOC and neocons, acceptable Republican personalities, Ted Cruz, for instance. And they're going to try to excise the likes of, anyone outside the political machine.
Big problem for me with centralized media in general. And it's part of why I don't like this idea that Elon's been pushing to create an app for everything, a one-stop app, the X app. Because if Elon don't like you, Alex Jones, he can just ban you from everything then. If you're putting everything through a central server. Same with Meta, man. Too much power. The DC Drano got already put on a list or was on a list. I don't like it, man. I don't like it. And you can't force people to get out of their silos. You got to let them do it on their own. You got to inspire them to do it.
The only interest I would have in an alternative to Twitter is even more free speech because, like you said, Elon, he has this personal vendetta against Alex Jones. I actually think that he doesn't want to get banned from the App Store, but it's more unpopular to say that than to say, oh, I just have a very strong opinion about his treatment of the Sandy Hook people. But in any case, you're not going to get more free speech from anything Mark Zuckerberg owns than something that Elon Musk owns. So in my opinion, why? I mean, I can understand why if you're a leftist and you want more content moderation, you would rather have a Threads conversation than a Twitter conversation because the moderation is going to be more what you're looking for. But I mean, for people like DC Drano, it's never going to be as free as Twitter is.
You know what'll make the magic if Threads and Twitter come together and cooperate, and you can.
Threads has stated they will soon be on the fediverse. So this is actually really interesting. I think the fediverse is a very, very important move for social media that can actually fix a lot of the problems. For those that aren't familiar, it's effectively the internet of social media. So imagine this. Imagine early internet. To go to a website, you log into AOL, and then AOL shows you a list of things you can click. But there are websites, of course. Today, you have Twitter, you have Facebook, you have YouTube. You can go on that platform and see people. With the fediverse, all of these different apps will interlock with each other. So you can go onto Threads and see someone's tweet. You could see someone's Blue Sky post, someone's Mastodon post, someone's Gab post. So that's actually a very, very good thing. However, if that is the case, there's no reason to use Threads because it's a Zuckerberg platform. You might as well just use any of the other fediverse apps. But that stops censorship. If we can get a Twitter-like system, if we can get federated networks, what happens is you might sign up for Threads because it's easy. You can see posts from Phil on Twitter, and then you can, Threads might be like, we're blocking Twitter from our network because we don't like him, but Phil can then sign up for any other fediverse app or connect through that way and syndicate. So ultimately, you can't be censored. In fact, you can even create your own website with your own protocol where you can never be banned because your username would be like Ian at iancrossland.net or whatever. So then people would just follow you from your website. So it's kind of like RSS feeds, turning Twitter into a network of servers instead of one centralized platform. So that's good. But
yeah, there's actually these things called ENS domains. ENS, it's Ethereum network server names, I believe. They think it might be like your ID on the web 3.0, and you go to like ENS.domains. But you buy it with crypto, and it's like you can use your name.eth, which is the Ethereum thing, and you pay Ethereum for it. That might be one way to have like a presence that can bounce around from network to network, or you control your own, because it'll be like a wallet where you have your money and your ID all together, where you can log into all these different sites.
And imagine if nobody could ban you because nobody owns your server. All they can do is block you. That's the way it should be. The problem now is with Threads or Twitter or any other platform, there's some dude who's like, I'm just going to ban you. You can't do that in the real world. You can't get banned from like walking down the street and saying your opinions. To a certain degree.
Or the phone companies can't ban you.
Right. To a certain degree, you can, of course, because people lie, cheat, and steal all the time. And, corrupt government officials will try and play dirty games. But the point is, we are protected in expressing our opinions. I hope that's where this all goes. And I don't know what Jack Dorsey's working on, but I just want to give a shout out to Jack Dorsey because he recently did a podcast interview where he said that JFK was assassinated by the CIA, and he got very into it. And he's like, so you're saying, he's like, yes, at that point was when the American dream was stripped away, when our own government, the CIA, killed a sitting president. I was like, wait, what? Wow, Jack.
But wait, didn't they basically admit that?
I don't know if they admit it. I know Tucker's said it. Ron Paul said it. Like, we're at the point where basically it is the widely accepted.
Maybe I'm too far down the conspiracy rabbit hole for too many things where I'm just like, yeah, I thought we were all on the same page. Like, yes.
I love the Kennedy assassination conspiracy, because there are people who say it's multiple gunmen, and it's Lee Harvey Oswald is all pinned on this one guy, but like the story of Lee Harvey Oswald's crazy. First, he screamed out, "I'm a patsy," as they were carrying him away. They found his gun in the building that he was in, like on another floor. So like if you're going to
Then
go...
he gets killed.
Yeah, and then someone comes up and kills him. But like if you're going to commit that crime, you wouldn't like put your gun in a room and go upstairs and have lunch afterwards. Who in their right mind?
But I did not want to ignite
Anyway,
a JFK
yeah,
conspiracy
I
conversation.
love that conversation.
Just shouting out Jack Dorsey because I saw that clip. But the point is, he made Blue Sky. I do want to say one thing, one last thing before we move on. There was a funny post I saw where this Twitter user said, "It is 2023 and I'm joining Mastodon. It is 2023 and I am joining Blue Sky. It is 2023 and I am joining Threads." And it's a picture of Dr. Manhattan from Watchmen, like sitting on Mars. I just thought that was really good. I'm like, you guys, stop trying. It's not going to work. Threads is already censoring things.
Yeah,
you can't curate your feed. The point of Twitter is that it is where we are angry with each other. That's it. Sorry, have a nice day.
Well, I mean, because Mastodon, that was already the left-wing alternative
Mastodon
to Twitter.
was bound to fail just because it's not an easy thing to use.
Yeah, I did try to log on and create an account just so I could kind of see what the leftists were talking about. It was not very intuitive, and I'm kind of a boomer, I'll admit, but still, it wasn't nearly as easy as Twitter. But I think even the leftists who claim that they want all the, the quote right-wing extremists banned, they know that Twitter is fun because of that conflict, but they can't stay away.
So here's what I think. The right wants to debate the left. They want to have this big conversation. The left wants to ban everyone on the right. The thing is, Twitter is the water cooler. It is the town square. So the left wants the right banned from it so they have a monopoly on the narrative. The right wants to use the platform to engage in debate. It does not work for either if the other leaves. If these liberals and leftists leave and go to Mastodon, they're no longer in town square. They have no narrative control. There's no point in being there. Sure, you've banned all the conservatives, but now you have no influence.
Right.
For conservatives, if there's no one to talk to but each other, it's boring. There's no debate.
Truth.
Well, so they
Truth
want
Social.
the conservatives,
Right.
or the leftists want the conservatives on the platform, so they're able to feed the conservatives what they want them to see. They don't want conservatives in their own echo chamber because then they're going to be talking about the leftists in a way that they don't like.
I want to pull up this tweet from Alvin. Elon Musk responded to this tweet with an exclamation point. He said, "Dear God, what the F? I give you now this image, Threads, an Instagram app. I'll give you the short version. They're basically spying on you in every way imaginable. Data safety. Let's see. Data shared, personal info, device or other IDs, data collected, location, personal info, financial info, health and fitness, messages, photos and videos, audio, files and docs, calendars, contacts, app activity, web browsing, app info and performance, device or other IDs." Now that's amazing. They do say it's encrypted.
Can you say no to those? There's these carrot drop downs on the right. Can you click those? I mean, this isn't obviously interactable.
This is basically saying what they're doing. So look at this.
Like you have to opt in or out.
They have your location.
What's
They
this
have your
account
name,
here?
email, user ID, address, phone number, political or religious beliefs, sexual orientation.
A lot of times you'll be able to opt out,
Data
but they'll opt you in if you
Look
don't
at this.
know.
They take your financial info, your credit score. You are giving them. Is this for? Like, if this is legitimate, I just want to make sure. Like someone posted this, and assuming this is real, like you're giving your credit score, your health info, and fitness info. So how much you weigh, your blood levels.
Advertisers must be so aroused
Oh,
right
man.
now. This is everything they could
Look at
possibly
this.
You're giving your
want on us.
email,
voice or sound recordings, files and documents. Quite literally, it can go into your calendar events. What is all of your contacts?
You can look at all your videos on your phone. The contacts is crazy because if
Let me
some
see if
random person that never signed up for social media is in my phone, then now Instagram has them and they'll start marketing to them.
Well,
Let's
not
see.
just even more insidiously, we know the federal government has been working with social media companies. If they can see who's following, who's
Not
not
only-
just following on social media, but actually who has who in their phone's contacts, that's really, really scary.
Just
Yeah, I
today
don't
I
like-
saw that someone a former CIA employee, someone that worked for CIA, is now moved over to, I believe it was Facebook Meta. I'm looking for the tweet now, but
I actually had an experience a couple weeks ago. Alex Jones was on the PBD podcast, Patrick Bet-David, and he asked some question on there, like if we install in Russia, if there's like a new leader is installed and they're sympathetic to the West, what will happen? And nobody really had an answer. And I was going to text him, Alex, and be like, well, I think that would move us towards totalitarian, technocracy, a little bit faster, more peaceful, but also that. And I just didn't message him because like, I don't want the FBI reading what a bullshit fucking. I was so angry at myself that I didn't be brave. Like
So the guy that is for the CIA, Aaron Berman, former 17-year CIA officer, is now head of elections policy for Facebook and Instagram. Berman joined Facebook in 2019 and was responsible for writing misinformation policy and enforcing it for the 2020 election, COVID, Brazilian elections, etc. He's joined by 15 other CIA, FBI, and DHS working in trust and safety for
That is
Meta.
so gross.
So real quick, I did confirm these images. It's in the Play Store. It is real.
Can you drop them down on the right?
One thing I want to do real quick though is I went to the Twitter app on the Play Store. I do not see the same thing. It doesn't have anywhere. Yeah, it doesn't have this stuff.
Who's that guy that tweeted that? Because I want to take a look and retweet that.
Jesus, this is so hard to navigate.
That's not.
So when I go to Twitter, I don't
accident.
see it. Let me see what Truth Social does. Data safety starts with you, blah, blah, blah. See the details. So data collected from Truth Social. Your personal info, email addresses, user ID, phone number, messages, other in-app messages, photos and videos, contacts, app activity, info performance, and device IDs. That's actually all normal, right? The reason why it says photos and videos, and this is true for Meta, is because you post them, so it needs access to those. It doesn't have anything else. I mean, contacts are there because it'll ask you. In-app messages, I don't care about. Your email address will, of course, you log in.
Sign in with that.
So it is true that Threads by Instagram is basically audio files. Like, it's taking everything.
Yeah, it's probably
it's
government.
the same thing that TikTok does.
I wonder if Instagram
People
does the
talk
same
about-
thing.
People talked about the amounts of data that TikTok collects. Sounds like Threads does the same.
Instagram has basically the same thing. Instagram basically takes everything as well.
Yeah.
This is Facebook. This is what they do.
And like knowing that, man, how can people? It's just such a convenient tool, but it's so insidious that they're tracking not your every move, but
All right, Twitter.
your psychology.
Twitter takes not nearly as much. It doesn't access your files and documents, but it does have quite a bit of information. Your web browsing history, Twitter takes. App functionality, analytics, advertising, and marketing, your web browsing history. Twitter takes that too. So it looks like Twitter is very bad. Threads is substantially worse, but don't be surprised when everyone's spying on you. And I'll make sure it's clear that I don't want to single out Threads on this one. They are spying on you to a greater degree than the other ones, but they're all spying on you quite a bit.
Well, I
Whose
mean,
minds-
if anyone who has an Alexa or a Google Home Assistant or whatever they're called, that is essentially a wiretap that you've allowed into your home.
All these phones are. This
Yeah.
phone is tracking me right now because if
So-
you say, what is the thing?
The voice activation?
Okay, Google.
Does your phone?
Beep,
Oh, it turned
zing,
on.
It buzzed. Well, I pushed the button.
Oh, okay.
How can I help?
So
Stop.
here's what people need to understand.
Trash.
If your phone, TV, or any other device has voice activation, that means it is listening to
All the
every
time.
single word you say.
Very likely recording it and transmitting it
Well,
to a database.
it has to record it. The way voice activation works is that it records what you say, sends it to a company for analysis, who then scan it for text to convert it to text and sends it back to the TV. So if your TV is voice activated, many people have this now. If you can just walk up and say something like, "Okay, Google," or whatever, every word out of your mouth gets sent to this company for analysis, and it's just waiting to hear the activation command. They save all that data.
Of course.
They keep it all. What they say is, don't worry, it's anonymized. We don't actually know who you are. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
if I
you
care
know
about
who
that.
you are because I'm talking about who I am. You can't really have all of my personal conversations and say it's anonymous because no, it's not. That's not how conversations work. But our TV actually has something where we can turn off the voice activation function like through the hardware. Like a lot of laptops have that with webcams now. But if you do that, there's a stupid little light that will remain on, and it's annoying because they want you to have the thing open.
Right.
Because they want to be listening to you.
They also, this Alvin guy also posted this app privacy from Instagram, and it says, the following data may be collected and linked to your identity: health and fitness, financial info, contact info, user content, browsing history, usage data, diagnostics, purchases, locations, context, search history, identifiers, sensitive info, and other data.
What the hell does that mean?
My favorite
Just
was credit
sensitive
score.
info.
It said credit score.
Your credit score.
Dude, Zuckerberg just wants to know everything about you.
Yep.
I think
It's
it's
because
the,
he
But that's
loves
crazy.
you.
I mean, think about what that means for advertisers. If they're plugged into your credit score, they can actually bid to advertise on people who have good credit scores. Like if you're a credit card or something
Yeah.
like that, that's scary.
Yeah.
That's messed up.
You know what I wonder if, like, maybe the AI took over a long time ago and it's just learning everything possible about us?
it
we don't realize we're under its spell.
It feels inevitable. I don't know if I'm broken and I'm just like giving up, or if it's actually inevitable. If the AI take over, not like electricity didn't take us over. We weren't taken over by it. We just all use it mostly. So AI, it might be similar. It might not take us. It might just all use it. But what a powerful tool, especially when it can talk to you and tell you things.
What, the AI?
The artificial intelligence. It's freaking weird, man.
No, AI really scares me, and it's also kind of ironic, and people have been posting about this. Like, we assumed AI and like technology would come, so we would be relieved of menial jobs, especially like that's the dream if you're on the left. But instead, it's like all of the creatives that are being put out of work almost first. I mean, obviously, technology has been for a long time phasing out lower skilled jobs, but it's like now, even the good jobs that people were aspiring to, those are the ones that are also being wiped out by AI. Like, you know, the graphic designers, the writers.
Yeah, it's like it's less about can you physically draw the picture now, and more about can you conceive of the description verbally, and then give the computer an accurate, like intricate descriptive.
So it can come up with it.
It's another type of art form. It'll produce another generation.
Actually, so I did a poll on that on my Twitter, and it was quite the lively debate whether AI art actually counts as art. Is it art? What is art? I mean, that's philosophical, but I think it is art. A lot of people will say it is not art if it's created by AI.
Incorrect. It is.
I agree, because I think there are so many different tools that we have evolved throughout time using to create art. Exactly. Why are we placing the limit on AI?
Yeah, because if you use a laser to carve something into wood.
Yeah, and I mean, people will say, well, oh, it's just an amalgamation of previous art. Well, isn't that any art anyway? We are the creation is usually the product of, I guess, absorbing other works and then your own interpretation of it. So.
When someone paints a picture and uses the tools, paints or a paintbrush or whatever it is they're using, now people can do all sorts of different crazy art. They'll take like coins and then line them up so that it makes a big picture. The AI is just basically a paintbrush. What you input into it may not actually be good art. You might say, hey, make this picture. It makes one. You say, hey, everybody, look what my AI thing did. And you're like, that's stupid. And then someone might put it in, refine it, put the photo back in, say, change this, change that, and then refine it to the point where it actually makes a really cool picture. But admittedly, it's just getting easier and easier to make stuff. The scarier thing about it is if all art is just derivative of other art, then eventually all art will be derivative of AI. AI will just be regurgitating the same things without new human thought and input.
But it's crazy because, I mean, I've been working on stuff with like different logos, and we are working with a graphic designer, like an actual person, to come up with stuff. And then one day I was like, I'm just going to try one of these AI logo generators. I just want to see, because we're kind of like, we're at an impasse where nothing's really like sparking. Man, the AI ones were good.
Oh, wow.
They were really good. They were better. There's like, man, this is actually solid, and it's faster and it's cheaper. But, I want to support the actual person, but it's just hard when the AI product is in a lot of ways genuinely better.
I want to point out a couple articles real quick, because we're talking about threads. And even though a bunch of people on the left are trying to abandon Twitter for this, look at this one from Vice. I've seen posts you people wouldn't believe: the birth of an awful mutant baby. A man explaining that the symptoms of acute radiation poisoning are similar to panic. All those moments will be lost in time, like post from 2012. They're talking about threads. It says threads is an assault on the senses. Once you've experienced it, it's impossible to scrub from memory. Threads is a kaleidoscope of disturbing images and unpleasant information, a cautionary tale to be avoided, and a revelation of truth that feels stark and unavoidable. I like this one too. Look at this. Slate writes, Meta's new Threads app is terrible. It just might bury Twitter. The first sentence is good. The second sentence is bad. But yeah, it is absolutely awful. If you can't even get the left to cheer for this app, dude, I don't know what you're going to try and pull off.
They really messed up by opening up the fire hose of data to new users and making them see tons of people that they weren't interested in, rather than give them like 5 categories, have them auto-subscribe to like 5 accounts or 10 accounts and let them find their way. Because having to block people the minute you walk into a social network is the most antisocial tactic or technique. You do not want your users blocking each other. That's like a failure of the system.
Well, so here's the thing with threads, right? So like, again, I'll pull it up. And if I go to my home feed, let's just see who we end up with. Like Paris Hilton. I don't care to follow Paris Hilton, but I don't want to block Paris Hilton.
Exactly.
Right.
Because at some point in the future, Paris might do something that gets re-threaded or whatever, and maybe run for president. And it's like, I want to see that post. then I got to be like, oh, they did. I better go unblock them to see it. That's ridiculous. But that's what happens when it's a bunch of random people. I mean, why is it recommending Taylor Lorenz to me? What is this?
Probably
Balls.
scraped your name on the internet
literally
with
why.
along with Taylor
Wait,
Lorenz's
what is
name.
this? Is Taylor Lorenz banned?
Oh, if Taylor Lorenz is on Threads, what's it called?
Threads.
I might have to sign up because I'm blocked on Twitter and I miss her posts.
Oh.
Her neurotic
that'd be
posts.
great.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to download it. There's some
Oh
sort
yeah,
of
like
network
when you
issue.
search for Taylor Lorenz, you get. It's like why are you sending me this? Why are you telling me to follow this person? I don't care.
It's a it's either
Instagram-
an oversight or just a brute force tactic.
Well, it's hard now because social media isn't what it was created. Like Facebook used to be the people that you know. Now something like Twitter, yeah, it's a mixture of people you know, but also just like brands, public figures, like political discourse. It's this weird. How do you even begin to start to recommend a person something? I admit, like, not that I'm trying to defend Threads, but that does sound like a challenge.
You know the worst thing about Instagram is, you'll click the little magnifying glass button. It'll give you a bunch of recommended posts. You'll see this video. This happens to me a bunch where it's like, I can't really tell exactly what it is. They do that on purpose.
Click on it.
They want you to click it. And then as soon as I do, now Instagram's sending me a whole bunch of these weird videos. Like there was one where it's, cause I watch a lot of poker vlogs. And so I get recommended this video where I have no idea what the picture is. And I want to know. It is a coin pusher, a fake coin pusher with fake casino chips in it. All I see is this weird stack of chips, and I'm like, what is that? So I hit it, and then I'm like, oh, it's a fake gambling. It's not real. People make these fake videos that look like they're winning money because people click on it, and I'm like, get out of here. Next time I refresh, all of a sudden Instagram in my main feed is sending me all this garbage, and I'm like, block. I don't want to see that. I never wanted to see it. I just didn't know what it was. This is what they do. How stupid of a social media platform. But they want to control narrative and they want to shove everybody into this algorithmic feed. That's why they're doing it.
I mean, I wonder if the debut of this particular app is in conjunction with the kicking off of the election season.
Probably.
Yep.
It does make sense. I mean, I don't want to be too tinfoil hat, but if this is a social media app that they can convince the regular public is where the correct narrative is and Twitter is where the misinformation is, then it might be an attempt to... I'm not saying it's going to be successful.
No, you're right. It won't be, because the thing about Twitter is it's where the politically oriented individuals seek out those conversations. Threads, they can't do it. Mastodon couldn't do it. Blue Sky couldn't do it. Threads won't be able to do it for all of the same reasons. Any other app can't do it. Twitter is first in, best dressed, and it's where people have followers and it's where they talk. I got no followers on Threads, and I really don't care to try and get followers on a feed where people won't even see what I post. Even if I get 1 million followers, no one's going to see what I post because it's all recommended weird algorithmic stuff.
That's another...
They're recommending AOC to me.
Yeah.
I do not want to follow her.
People are getting mauled by data when they go in there, man. They need an open space to seek out what they like. Listen to me, Mark. Wake up.
No, he knows what he's doing.
I don't think he does. This is a terrible debut. It's got a 3.9 out of 5 rating on Play Store.
You cannot give someone like Mark Zuckerberg credit, as he doesn't. I mean, granted, The Social Network was just a movie, but it kind of gave you an idea of like his mindset. And if you look at what he has done with Facebook since like the end point in that movie, like he's installed Facebook as the internet for a huge portion of the developing world. You know, he had a deal where if you go and use, like, they'll give out free phones, and these phones come with Facebook installed. So there's a huge portion of the developing world that their first experience with the internet was on Facebook. To a lot of people, Facebook is the internet. To them, they're one and the same because that was the first way that they experienced the internet.
Well, that's also, it's mostly people who are on the older side, like young people, Gen Z, they aren't as much on Facebook.
I think you're right in like Western countries, but I think that like in Africa and the Middle East, where you're talking about poorer countries, where they were
I think they're all about TikTok.
I'm not saying I'm not saying they not. I'm talking about like when the reason that Facebook got to the
right.
market share that it did was because like in 2012, 13, 14, when they were first, like when they were handing out phones with Facebook installed, they're handing them out to the developing world. And that's why you got so much of the whole world on Facebook. But it was partially because not just that the app worked well and people liked it, but because Facebook was giving away phones with their product on it. So that way they could collect data, because it was the easiest way to collect people's data is to give them a free phone with a free
and they'll
free
just
access.
give you their data. They'll put it in for you.
And so that was one of the things that Facebook did to really grab market share, and that's why Facebook is such a big company, and that's why a lot of people think of the internet, or when they think of the internet, they think of Facebook.
Were you saying that I was giving Mark too much credit?
Yeah, he knew what he was doing. He knew that when he was giving out those phones, he was giving them away for free because he wanted the data those people had.
But with Threads, I don't know if he was like, yeah, have it open to he might have made that final call. Like, let's just open it to everybody. Let them we'll start with everything and they can work their way back, as opposed to start with nothing and they can work their way up. Because it's a very empty feeling to go into a new social network and have nothing. And be like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. Who's on this network? How do I find them?
Yeah, but if you can import your Instagram,
Yeah.
then
That's what I thought would happen.
And it is, yet still they give you a bunch of garbage you don't want to read.
It's wild.
I think the problem is that you were talking about earlier. The people that you follow on Instagram aren't necessarily the people you would follow on Threads. Like, they're different things. Like on Instagram, I follow like baby accounts, cake accounts, like travel and stuff, which is very, very different than my doomsday Twitter curation.
It also ruins a lot of these accounts for me. Because there'll be like one account where it's just like people who, travel the world or whatever, and they get to see cool pictures of mountains. And now they're all of a sudden posting about BLM or something. And I'm like, uh-oh.
I did not want to know your opinions.
You have good content. I don't care about what your thoughts are. You have no idea what you're talking about. It just ruined it for me.
That's why I like on Instagram, I don't post any kind of political stuff on my Instagram page. I never have, it's never been, very, very, very rarely will I put something mildly political. Political stuff stays on Twitter, and then Instagram is me and all that remains, and shows and my dog and stuff.
Yeah, do cats. Did you like side surf cakes? You ever follow those guys? They make cakes. They'll make cakes of like realistic looking, like a cup.
And
then you cut it and it's a cake.
Yeah.
They made Lex Friedman's face.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And Michael Malice had it at his house. He probably still has it right now. Yeah, I posted a picture of it. They're great. I follow that account. There's a lot of cake accounts.
Yeah.
Like, you like those realistic cake accounts?
I mean, I like to follow them because it's cool, but I also know that those are not the cakes that taste good. Right? Because there's like a lot of fondant, and they're probably only moist because they use a simple syrup. I like the Genoise, the fluffier stuff.
Yeah, real cake.
Yeah,
none of that
exactly.
fake garbage cake.
Are you a cook?
Yes, I love cooking. I love eating. Baking.
It's baking, Ian.
Not
Baking.
as good, but still like that.
Well, why don't we talk about politics? Because we were going to get into that a little bit ago. So
like
here's
YouTube, 'cause it's
here's
about
the story
everything.
from the Daily Mail. White House cocaine was found near the Situation Room and not in the West Wing visitor entrance. Drug story changes for the second time as Secret Service now says dime bag was found in a more secure location. Okay, so it was Hunter, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I struggle to imagine anyone else who was just sneaking in cocaine to the White House, because I would imagine, I've never been there, but I imagine they have pretty good security. I imagine there are cameras. I imagine people are getting searched.
Yeah, where are the cameras?
I bet anything it was Jill. Dr.
Have you
Jill
guys
Biden
seen that
just
video?
railing.
Of what?
The video of Hunter on the balcony, and
strung
it kind of looks like he's
There's
kind of
a-
strung out. He's,
Well, then he goes
There's a
behind.
picture of. Let me pull this up.
This video is great. He goes behind Jill, and it looks like he pulls his sleeve up, takes a bump off his arm, and then.
and it also
or
looks like Jill is furious, which, I mean, if your son was strung out, you probably would be.
like she can sense him behind her, and she's just in a mood. She's like, "Oh, this guy."
Not in a mood.
Here,
She's
take a-
in a mood
Yeah, in a mood
because
is not
of
the
Hunter.
right term.
Take a look at this picture.
This is Jill.
Victor Shi tweeted, "Wow, this photo of President Biden sitting on the White House steps is just so breathtaking and captures this moment so well. Joe Biden is doing so much for all of us and has the weight of the world on his shoulders. And I just want to say thank you every time I see him."
So ridiculous.
it
So,
parody?
so here's this
that
photo.
is not the sentiment that I get
And
from the photo.
the sentiment I got from this was Joe sat down, looked at the horizon, and went, "Damn, that was my coke."
Like he's like, damn it, you Hunter, you can't just go.
They got it.
45 minutes without blowing lines up your
I
nose.
bet he was thinking something like that.
You know?
Hunter. I wonder if I don't know. You can assume a lot from a picture, but I imagine that Joe's just like so broken about what he has, like what happened with Hunter, and the world knows. There's video of Hunter. Like there's pictures off his laptop with little young people, like kids.
Well, that's what's crazy about the whole Hunter Biden story. Not necessarily that he's into all of this depravity, but it's that he feels the apparently compulsive need to document all of it. Like, I mean, I've never seen a man take so many incriminating selfies in my whole life.
I understand it, though, because, I skateboard. And so we're always trying to film everything we do to make sure everybody knows just, how good we are at skateboarding. And
how good you are at the crack.
Bragging.
Well, here's the thing, man. Hunter Biden is a big part of the crack community, and he wants to make sure everybody knows he's the best.
If you're that good at smoking crack, you want people to know.
He goes to his buddy and he's like, yo, I need to film her because we're going to be doing crack and prostitutes later tonight. And someone's got to capture this stuff. And they're like, just use your phone, put it on Instagram. And he's like, all right.
I was thinking about like the Roman Republic or the Roman Empire, really, how they would have like these giant parties and on boats, like when it was all falling apart. There's just these decadent things. And then we see this festival of Joe Biden just like vacantly staring out, his wife not even looking at his son, who's a crackhead, who just got like, not pardoned, but like a misdemeanor for having like crack and a gun on him, and how they'll look back at this period of history at that and be like, wow, what did America become, that the first son was like just given a little pat on the wrist for having something that would have thrown other people in prison.
You see the leftist response to that was that it's because of white privilege. Nothing to do with Joe Biden and corruption because of that. It's specifically because Hunter is white, because all white people would have been treated the same in that situation.
And Ian, it may very well be that in 100 years, the way they look back on this moment is it was the beginning of the fall.
Yeah.
They may say,
well, I think the Kennedy assassination was.
They perhaps will write in the future and say, kids,
there's always something.
The first fall of the American Empire started in what date? And they're going to be like, July 4th, 2023. And what caused it? Finding Hunter Biden's cocaine. That's right, kids.
It is pretty nasty. It's like, what kind of faith can you have? I mean, obviously power, this is what I've always been told. They protect each other, people in power. Nepotism runs rampant, and they flaunt it. And I think this is Hunter's flaunting it, obviously, with all his pictures and propaganda. And then Joe's just completely ignoring it and saying, he's my son.
Well, they said they found it near the West Executive entrance.
I think it's a lie.
Used by officials, visitors, and celebrities.
Yeah, I don't believe it.
Yeah. Next thing you know, they're going to be like, at first it was a library, then they said it was the West Wing, now Situation Room. So they're going to be like, we found it on Biden. We literally found it in his pocket.
Or they'll say it was something other than cocaine next. They'll be like, it was actually baking soda. We thought it was Coke. It wasn't. I mean, what a bunch of crap. Why would they even tell us anyway? Why would they even bring this up?
Because they want to replace Biden. They're getting rid of him.
Mic drop. I think you're right, dude.
Yeah, it's probably going to be Newsom or something.
Yeah, well, he's going on a nationwide tour. He was doing something. I think it was in Idaho and Boise, where he was visiting a bookstore. Like, oh, look at these banned books. It's like, you're at a bookstore. The books are not banned if they're at a bookstore. But I mean, there's no reason he's doing anything outside of California unless he wants to run for president.
What do you think about Michelle Obama?
I think so. She doesn't really have the experience or the gravitas that Barack did, but there's a lot of nostalgia around the Obama presidency for, I think, like a lot of independents, probably disaffected liberals. So I think, I mean, if it's her or Kamala, definitely Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the truth is, if you have nostalgia for Obama, you didn't pay attention to Obama's presidency.
Oh yeah, I'm not denying that. But I think there are like a lot of disaffected liberals or people who would not vote Democrat now who were happy to vote for Obama regardless of how things were going, just because it felt nice. You know, he felt like a president, and it was the good old days back then, even though it wasn't in a lot of ways.
Partly why some people probably voted for Biden.
Yeah.
Because they thought it was going to be like Obama or whatever. But it's probably going to be Newsom. We'll see, though. I mean, I really don't know. We're an eternity away.
I feel like that would be such a hard sell because you are governor of a state that is bleeding, hemorrhaging people. It's just going down the drain. Who on earth would look at California and think, yes, more of this?
There are people who live in these places.
Yeah.
And they keep defending what's going on. It's remarkable when we have a conversation with some of these liberals. People live in New York, and it's like 25 people were pushed in front of subway trains last year. Like, that's bad. And they're like, so what? And I'm like, well, you don't have. I'm not arguing every single person in Manhattan is falling in front of trains. I'm saying you probably should do something to stop this from happening.
Yeah, well, I think
whatever it may
what's
be.
frustrating about talking to people from New York and California especially is that they act like those things are normal. Like I remember there was oh gosh, what it was with Jordan Neely, right? This homeless guy was threatening people. There were so many New Yorkers who were saying like, well, that's just normal. That's an everyday occurrence. He didn't need to freak out. I was like, what is the matter with you people? You don't need to live like this. There are so many other places, even other cities where this doesn't happen. Stop defending it. And it's also frustrating because these are the people who by and large hate America the most. And it's like you are in a blue city, in a blue state, when the president is a Democrat. If things aren't going well, perhaps step back and take a look at why that is.
I'm kind of excited for everything that's going on with politics because I'm feeling like, we're winning with the Bud Light stuff especially. And I do think we're going to start to see more liberal personalities start adopting the disaffected liberal stances on things because at a certain point they're going to realize there's no market for the weird leftist stuff. I mean, I'll put it this way. 8 years ago, it was intersectional feminism, critical race theory. Now it's wokeness, gender ideology. It keeps it keeps changing what the left wants. They have no position. It's just random and amorphous. At a certain point, as they keep getting crazier and more unhinged with whatever it is they're supporting, people are leaving. Liberals are becoming disaffected. And that means these commentators are going to lose their positions and they're going to be forced to be like, okay, that's too much for me.
I think people are starting to wake up because I follow, this is just a very anecdotal thing, but I follow a lot of makeup brands on things like Instagram just because, it's fun, it's girly, whatever. But during Pride Month, it's insufferable. Every makeup beauty brand, any brand that caters to women, they're all out trans this, let's put men in our products, whatever. I started actually looking through the comments because I was just unfollowing brands because I'm sick of it. I started looking through the comments expecting this is brave, because by and large women, at least on social media, they all eat that stuff up. But no, overwhelmingly people were fed up saying, unfollow, what does this have to do with the product? And I think that's a good, if even normies are getting sick of it, normies who are probably left, right?
Women are getting turfy. I literally just this morning, I got a text message from a buddy of mine who's in a very well-known band. And he's like, he sent me a tweet from Jill Flipovic. And she was talking about, about how marriages are not, people aren't getting married and they don't last. And she was looking at this as a victory because she thinks that women are out there doing what they want to do and living their lives, even though it seems that people are more depressed and not happy about it. But anyway, she was looking at it as a victory. And my buddy's like, do you believe this stuff? And I'm like, look, this is kind of how the left goes. They don't actually embrace things like family values. Yeah. And he's got a family and he's talking about his wife and he's like she's kind of turfy and stuff. And I was like, look, she was talking about women and men in women's bathrooms and stuff. And that's where the line is being drawn. Women want to have their own spaces. Yeah. You could probably get away with bathrooms. Maybe. You're not going to get away with locker rooms. Yeah. You're not getting away with dudes with trans women in the gym locker room walking around with a boner. That's not going to fly.
Look at We Spa. Remember that?
Exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
So that turned out to actually not be a trans person. It was just a guy who liked flashing his junk at women. And so because of these policies, and it's funny because conservatives are like, what's going to stop a man from doing it or whatever? And they're like, the left says, trans people don't do these things. Like, right, we're concerned about the men doing it under the guise. Yeah. So what happens is this dude goes in the women's locker room flashing his junk. And when a woman complains, they're like, must be a trans person, so we're not going to do anything about it. Then it turns out to be a repeat offender. They arrest.
If it is a trans person, or if it is a trans person, they do something. Imagine what they're going to get on social media: the backlash, you're transphobic, etc. All of the incentive is to allow the person in the bathroom to do whatever it is that they want, just so long as they don't actually physically grab someone else. Yeah. Because the repercussions of being wrong or being accused of being transphobic, it's social suicide.
Let me tell you guys something. The first ever 1080 on a skateboard was done by, I think, a 12-year-old boy. 12. This is like pre-pubescent. There's no, they say puberty is the point or whatever. The 12-year-old boy, this tremendous feat. Where are the females if puberty is what matters? So recently, I think a 12-year-old girl did the first ever 720 on a vert ramp. 720. Okay, so for those that aren't familiar with what this means, when you spin a full rotation around, it's a 360. You're spinning 360 degrees. You do that twice, it's a 720. You do it 3 times, it's a 1080. Just in this past week or so, a 12-year-old girl did a 720 on a vert ramp. The first time a girl's ever done it. It was a huge deal. Everyone's screaming and cheering. And I find it duplicitous to celebrate the first female to do a 720. At the same time, they're celebrating males competing in women's sports. Right. You recognize the literal distinction between males and females, because if it really was that it doesn't matter if you're male or female, they would have been like, who cares that a female did a 720? A 12-year-old boy did a 1080. And then I think another guy did a 1260 a couple years ago, which was a real big deal. But the reality is, because they know females are not competing at the same level as males, what's going to happen when we've already had, if you guys have been following Taylor Silverman, who actually works here, she was competing in skateboarding contests and had lost contests to biological males. How can this contradiction exist? But I'll tell you, the frustrating thing about it, people in the skateboard industry at the highest levels will privately say, yeah, we're not okay with this stuff, and then publicly be like, yay, good for you. That's starting to change.
Yeah.
And that's the cultural shift we're seeing that I'm actually happy to see, because now people are finally being like, okay, we can't keep doing this.
But what's insidious is that on the left, I've already seen the next evolution of their argument. It's like, at first, oh, there's no difference. You don't need to worry about men taking over women's sports because they don't have an advantage. Now it's like, okay, they do have an advantage, but that is exactly why kids need to go on puberty blockers. It's so that the advantage isn't, I guess, instilled. But that is BS, because at least according to my pediatrician, or my kid's pediatrician, from birth, boys and girls are on different growth charts. Okay, from conception, men and women are different.
Actually, in utero.
Right.
Prenatal testosterone has a big impact on fast twitch muscle development, for instance.
Listen, I don't think that children should be put on puberty blockers until they're old enough to decide what gender they want to be. But I want the left to make that argument real bad. I want them to make that argument real bad, because they will die at the ballot box.
Regarding like winning, like right now, the call, it feels like things have changed. Like there's a sea change, and whether it's a winning, it's like an ingredient of winning. It's like the anvil is so hot right now. We have heated this system up by uncovering the problems and hyper focusing on them and teaching people about the problems. Now it is hot. Now it is time to strike. And that is to create some sort of cultural revolution that is in the mind.
Easy with those kind of.
Well, this is what Mal.
This was me in 2000. Can we pull in the cultural revolution talk?
But that's what's happening right now, and we have to guide it.
There's a cultural revolution that's happening regardless of whether you want it or not. The question is the outcome going to be preferable to you?
Yes, and we need to push back against the people that are trying to have a cultural revolution in the U.S. because the cultural revolution is in an illiberal direction. What we want liberal principles in America. And right now, the push in the Cultural Revolution is an authoritarian push. It's where the censorship comes from. It's where the shutting people down comes from. All that stuff is authoritarian, and it's illiberal, and it's not what we want.
But we need a new way of living life in the... Okay, for instance, kids are seeing porn at the age of 9. We need some sort of sexual education revolution in this country.
No. We need to uphold the laws as they've been forever.
You can't just... if you just scream no, it's going to overcome.
Who said that?
You just said no, and then
He says we need to uphold the laws.
In the middle of me explaining my position,
well,
you
cut me off. So I cut you off. Sorry.
You said we need to have a sexual education for 9-year-olds. No, what needs to happen is it has always been illegal to allow children into adult movie stores and bookstores, etc.
Yeah, sure.
And then one day the internet gets invented, and then everyone in our country just goes, now it's fine.
Well,
no, it's not fine. Websites that allow children to access that stuff should be prosecuted the same way a bookstore would.
What about it's the parents that are allowing it. That's the problem.
Yeah, but you could say it's the parents that are allowing it when it comes to pornography. But if a little kid were to go into a supermarket and buy alcohol, you wouldn't just say, oh, it's the parents that need to do a better job.
Parents let them do it.
No, yeah, but the parents let them do it. But it would still be illegal to sell alcohol to that minor, regardless of what the parents wanted or not. Why is there a different standard for online pornography? Because that's also not the standard for in-person pornography. You can't just, it's the parents' fault. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I don't want to cut you off.
Oh, I'm just saying, like, that's only, it's just the parents' fault to moderate. That's really only used when it comes to online pornography. People aren't saying that when it comes to, like, actual porn that you could buy in person, right? We're okay with the government saying, no, you as the seller cannot provide that to the minor.
How about this? If a guy goes out in public in a trench coat and starts dancing around and then whips his coat open and he's naked, he gets arrested.
Yeah.
How
Not
about
if it's during a pride parade.
That's true. How about if a guy goes on Twitter and posts a video of him dancing and then whips it open, he gets arrested. There's literally no difference.
Well, what I'm talking about is more just about educating young people about sexuality in a way that can help them.
That's something.
Hold on, please let me finish.
It sounded like you did finish.
No, I mean, okay.
You made a point, then he started talking.
But when I was like 11 or 10, I had sex ed in 5th grade, and they were like, "This is what a condom looks like. Good luck, kids. Don't get her pregnant." And I'm like, okay, I guess that's enough for the 90s. But now, if the kid's friend brings a cell phone and they're all going to see porn, like they need to know. They need to be.
But you can't just
bolstered against that.
You can't just start treating 9-year-olds like they would inevitably be looking at porn at the time, right? Because that's the same. That's basically saying like, oh well, you're going to see porn anyway. We might as well just. And
honestly, the biggest problem that I have with that is this is something that parents should be deciding. Like parents should be deciding when their kids are given sexual education, but that is not something we want
the mental
schools
revolution.
doing.
Exactly, we need a mental revolution of the consciousness where people become open to communicating these kinds of things with their kids.
Right. The argument you're making is that because there are people out in the streets exposing their genitals to children, it's important that we have the conversation with our kids about why they're doing it.
I would rather stop the people from exposing themselves to children.
The police go and arrest those people.
No, that's not the argument I'm making. I'm talking about internet porn.
Yes, it's the same thing.
No, it's not. A guy on the street flashing is not the same as internet porn.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not.
I agree.
You can watch internet porn from your living room. You can't watch a guy on the street flashing from your living room. You got to go on the street.
No, that's not
maybe
true.
Maybe through your window.
That's right.
But you have to go there.
In public. In public is in public. Twitter is in public. The street is in public.
From your closet with the door closed, you can watch internet porn. You cannot see the street from your
internet is in public.
That's an argument that needs to be made. Not a lot of people are.
Courts have made that, right? That's why they said that Donald Trump can't block people because it's the public sphere.
But yet AOC has blocked people.
And it's considered
ongoing. Yeah.
It's considered to be a violation of a court order that has to be adjudicated. But the difference between a politician barring you from a public space, which is a civil matter, is not the same as someone exposing themselves to children, which is what people who go on Twitter and post porn are literally doing. So I don't know why it is that before the internet, it was ubiquitous. Anyone who goes out into public and exposes themselves, male or female, to kids, to any person would get arrested. The internet gets invented. Anyone can access it from anywhere with increasing ease. And all of a sudden, we as civilization decided this one area doesn't count. No way, dude. It is in public, and there should be. Look, I'll put it this way. The laws are already clear. The laws are already on the books. You cannot expose yourself to children or to anybody. But the police don't actually enforce the law. The police should. That's it.
Well, appeal to authority is not going to work on this one, man. You got to take care of your kids. Authority. The police should fix it. Like, you got to save your kids before they get corrupted.
Ian, that's not. That's
protect their minds by educating them. Argument.
Yeah.
You can't just call on the police. Who the hell is that anyway? Like, what are they going to do?
I would say arrest the people who are posting pornographic content.
Who owns Pornhub? I mean, it's like,
well, I mean,
Ian, your argument is because we've allowed it, we should not stop it.
No, because it is reality. We need to craft such.
It's
we
reality.
Can't just pretend that it's not.
Yeah, but
it's reality that people go in the street and expose themselves.
It is reality, and we need to confront it. But why is the way that we are confronting it by making it a problem children have to deal with? If we are going to confront it, we should tackle things from the adult perspective and handle the adults who are committing the act, rather than just trying to train our kids like, oh, I'm sorry, you're just going to have people flashing you and it's not okay, but I guess we'll talk to you about it. So you're prepared. But also there are states like Virginia, I think was the most recent one. I think Utah has done the same, where now they are requiring age verification to access sites like Pornhub. And it's caused this whole thing because now Pornhub's like, okay, well, we're going to block IP addresses from those states, which, I mean, obviously everyone has a VPN. It's very easy to get around. But, some people are saying now, oh, it's because it's a threat to privacy, yada, yada, yada. But I mean, you have to show your ID if you're going to purchase alcohol or access adult stuff in person. I don't think it's unreasonable to say that those same standards should apply when online.
Well, I got a question. I posed the suggestion that we need a revolution of the way we teach sexual education to kids. If you guys disagree and you think we don't need to change anything,
No, but it seems like you want a revolution in the opposite way.
Yeah,
what do you mean by that?
you're taking the approach the left takes.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what I take it on a person by person basis, but I think that you need to get kids ready. They need to understand that the internet's crazy.
Why do you need to get kids ready to understand this?
Hold on. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Ian's right. We need to start showing kids graphic videos of people getting their heads blown off in war, because that's reality too.
That's a real dickhead thing to do, dude. I didn't say that.
They might be out in the streets of Chicago with a lot of gun violence and death. So it's about time you bring these kids over and you show them these videos and explain to them what they're seeing and why. Or how about this? We protect children from these things,
Yes.
be it gore or lewd and lascivious behaviors. And when people engage in that stuff in public, we say, hey, that breaks the law.
Okay, how's it working so far?
We're
How's the
not
protection?
doing it. We've never done it.
Who's
My
we?
point is, our society in this country, for some reason, decided that even though the internet is publicly accessible to children, we won't do anything about people posting graphic images in places children can reach. It is on the books that you cannot have a weapon, a gun, accessible to children in many states. You can make arguments about whether or not Second Amendment protects the rights of people to keep and bear arms, whether those people are children or not, but there are those laws, they exist. Yet for some reason, the left, which wants to ban guns, will advocate to an extreme degree that you cannot have a weapon in any way. This could mean that you can't put it on the top shelf of your closet and close the door. Kid could get in there. But when it comes to posting graphic, obscene, I'm not talking about two people in the missionary position. The stuff you can find on the internet, everybody knows how psychotic it is.
Dude.
How absolutely
I've heard
deranged.
stories, man, that I wouldn't even mention on YouTube.
Yes. And
It's
so
nuts.
we
Really?
created, as a society, Section 230, specifically so that these platforms could remove those things and not be held personally liable for suppressing speech. It's a bit more complicated than that, but it was like, if something is lewd and obscene, you can take it down and not be considered responsible for the speech on that platform. Yet we've never set the precedent that, you can't walk around in public showing big pictures of pornography. You can't do that. But you can do it on the internet where children can get access to it.
And not just about children. If Ian is kind of held up like, oh, well, maybe children should have more education. Even as an adult, right? You can be charged for indecent exposure if there's no children around. But why is it all right to, spam pornography on Twitter to threads that have nothing to do with pornography? Why is that considered different?
With Twitter, I don't know if you need to be 18 to use the
I
app.
think it's 13.
Yeah.
13?
Yeah.
Do you need parental consent?
I think there are states that are beginning. I think Utah now, or like, I forget the exact state, but states are beginning to say, okay, you do need parental consent to be on social media if you're under a certain age, but that is not like a Twitter-wide policy as far as I'm concerned. People can correct me if I'm wrong.
On the street, there's no like 18 and over sign before you go there. On Pornhub there is. So you can't go. You can go, but
we're
you're
not
supposed
talking
to
about
lie.
Pornhub, we're also
If you're
talking about
lying.
It's like two little kids standing with one on the other's shoulders in a trench coat, walk into an adult bookstore and go, "Why, yes, I am 20 years old." Oh, right this way, sir.
But what it feels like is that there's like an alien presence that's infiltrating our system, and people are like, make it stop, make it go away. You're like, dude, they've already infiltrated. This is not an American thing. This is like a global
called
sex
horny. The
Sorry?
alien presence is called horny.
Yeah, whoever's running these websites, I don't pin them on America. And like, we can try and use American defense mechanisms to stop it, but it's there right now and it's happening. So we need to at least understand it. And we need to understand it as soon as possible. I'm not saying show kids graphic images. I'm not saying that. But I think that we just need a new way of living and behaving in this new. Dude, they want to put people in machine pods. They want to control your brain thoughts. We need to take control of this.
You're a little jumping around here. What I'm getting from you is you say that there needs to be a revolution. I take issue with the idea of having a revolution just because.
But a revolution already happened, to be clear, with the internet and the way that people are accessing information.
But again, I take issue because you're not talking about like a technological revolution or industrial revolution. You're talking about a people revolution, a revolution, or at least that's what Ian.
Of the mind.
That's what I'm understanding.
But that's also what Mao said, a revolution of the mind. Yeah, it's a consciousness revolution. That's why I started doing YouTube in 2006.
We don't need a consciousness revolution. We need to disregard and reject things that we know do not work. Things like top-down control, having government in charge of educating children. Those are things that we need to avoid. You want to have a family focus. You want your society wants to have a family focus. It's not a bad idea to say, all right, you can't post graphic images on this website, and if you do, then it's actionable, by the police, because this is the public square, or at least it makes sense, right? That I'm not for that particular policy or whatever, but it is a policy that it does address what seems to be the issue that we're talking about, which is children being exposed to graphic images and pornography on the internet.
I agree that we need to stop things that are bad. We do. That's a scientific way of looking at it. If it doesn't work, you disregard it. That's the scientific method. But there are other things that we don't know if they work or not, like God. It's just people grow up not believing that it's real. They think it's fake. And I don't think it is fake anymore. It seems like there's some sort of essence that's moving. Human words.
Let's stay on topic, I guess.
Well, this is the consciousness revolution I'm talking about. We need this in people's soul, in their spirit. We need to. I don't know if it's a level of fearlessness or what.
This is something that sounds very personal to you, and the idea that we should assert that everyone needs to have a consciousness revolution because of something that you feel deeply and personal about. That's not good.
I bet Mao tried to make everyone experience it.
Well, that's the thing. It's like trying to remake man.
To be clear, what you are saying and advocating for, top-down control is bad, government control of education is bad. For that to not be our reality, that would necessitate a revolution, because that is what we are living in. It is a radical thing nowadays to say, let's abolish the Department of Education. Like, that is a revolutionary thing, because we are so entrenched in this system right now.
Well, okay. So, I mean, if you understand that as revolutionary, okay, I can accept that.
Well, in what way is it not revolutionary?
Because we had 125 or whatever, 150 years.
But would it
right
now require a complete overhaul of the system?
Pardon me?
Would it right now require a complete overhaul of the system?
No, because you've got school. No, you got schools. Schools are mostly, even though the Department of Education kind of is the government agency.
Yeah, but
there's still a lot of autonomy that schools have. The biggest problem that I have
Department of Education is a federal level, but then there's all of the state apparatuses.
Yeah, that's something that the
which
problems,
is still government.
The problems that I have mostly with the curriculum and stuff is coming from the people that are producing the curriculum, not as much in the state apparatus. The state apparatus is deciding on the curriculum, but I think even
just like a little bit of government control in education.
No, you should completely have people should have I'm a guy that wants to abolish the Department of Education. Like, that's been something that I've been pro, doing clearly for as long as I've been on the internet. But I think that there isn't any reason to have centralized control over education at all. People can homeschool their kids. There's no reason to demand that people have to go to government schools or anything.
Let me cap this off. When I talked about revolution, what I'm really thinking of is like the Age of Enlightenment. That's a revolution. That was a revolution of consciousness. And I want something like that to turn forward. Revolution means to turn forward, to turn again, to revolute. It's a French term. I mean, it's like Latin or something.
Like I said, my vibe is, what I'm hearing you express is that you believe there needs to be a awakening inside people and what to me sounds like remaking man. And every time society or man has tried to reinvent human beings, remake man, it's ended in piles and piles and piles of bodies.
I want to jump to this story. We have this tweet from ALX. Breaking. The Biden administration has officially filed a notice of appeal in the Missouri v. Biden censorship case after a federal judge issued a preliminary injunction order barring government officials from contacting social media companies to suppress lawful speech. Simply put, this is the Biden administration's notice of appeal seeking to effectively overturn the right of freedom of speech in this country, the First Amendment.
Yes.
Why? The judge said you are still allowed to contact all of these companies for issues of national security and just not for suppressing the speech of U.S. citizens. The appeal specifically means the Biden administration wants the right to suppress the speech of American citizens. This is where we're currently at. The New York Times takes the amazing approach that it's bad. We should allow the government to stop people from speaking their minds. That's where we're currently at in this country. So you want to talk about a twisted reality?
Ian,
We have people who, here's where Democrats are. They quite literally don't care if people are bringing into schools books depicting adult carnal activities and this information to kids. They literally don't care that a teacher was trying to give students instruction, or literally did give students instruction on how to use Grindr, which is an 18 and up app only. They literally do not care of these things. They don't care that kids are getting access to psychotic and obscene graphic pornography. I'm not just talking about, as I mentioned earlier, like two people in a bedroom. The stuff you can find online is insane. They don't care about any of that. What they don't want you to do is criticize Joe Biden. What they don't want you to do is point out the Hunter Biden laptop story. What they don't want you to do is point out that they actually want to censor conservatives. Because if you do those things, they try to remove you. What they don't want you to do is advocate that children's not get sex change surgery. They'll ban you for that too. But they don't care about all the depravity. When I look at this stuff with what Joe Biden is doing, it really does feel like we are looking at an evil mirror image of what this country and what our society has believed in. It's the antithesis of everything we thought was good and moral and just. We want people to speak their minds. We don't want kids exposed to graphic images. What are the Democrats advocating for? The complete inversion, the suppression of individual rights and speech, and they advocate children see these things. And that's just the beginning. We can go on to all the 7 deadly sins too. This is shockingly insane.
Well, this has been going on for a long time. This is the most transparently it's been, I guess, reflected in government. But even if we look at Twitter before Elon Musk, the amount of resources they were dedicating to controlling the narrative on the vaccine or election interference versus the amount of resources they were dedicated to actually, shutting down, child exploitation material, it absolutely shows where their priorities are. They don't actually care about people's well-being. It's all about controlling the narrative. So, children being exposed to any type of graphic thing, being exploited online, that doesn't really harm their control, so they don't really do anything about it. But hey, someone questioning the efficacy of the vax, that actually does threaten their control. So they go all in on devoting resources, manpower, finances, whatever, into controlling that.
When you think of the government, do you think of it as a very powerful thing, or do you see it more as kind of like a visage of power?
I think it's a very, very powerful thing. And I think Americans they're naive as to how all encompassing the government really is in their day-to-day lives, infringing on their freedoms. I mean, because yes, America is a very free country, especially compared to somewhere like even, Canada or the UK. But to act as if the country now resembles anything the founding fathers had in mind, no, they're rolling in their graves right now.
I agree that we need some form of censorship, and kind of tail backing off what you were saying, Tim, about how kids are seeing like graphic images. Like we need to protect some aspect of our culture, of our life, of our species, and that is through just censorship. But
I just want to ask you one question real quick. Do you conceive of preventing children from seeing pornography as censorship?
I suppose it depends on how it's done. That could be one way to prevent them from seeing it. To say, like, you can't be here.
It is censorship.
Well, I mean,
another way, like, hey, let's go out
thing.
and play tonight instead of being on the computer. That's not really censorship.
The way that this is only my perception. When I think of censorship, I think of something that is trying, or at least the effort is made to prevent anyone from seeing it. So, like, kids being prevented from seeing adult content, to me that doesn't come across as censorship, because you prevent kids from grabbing the red hot stove because it's protecting them.
But censorship doesn't need to be always negative or always positive. It's just restricting information.
I think ratings on movies are a form of censorship. To let you know ahead of time, don't take your kid to see the R-rated one or something.
Well, I mean, courts in the U.S. have ruled that pornography is not free speech. So I guess I would push back on the idea that restricting pornography is censorship, because if it doesn't technically infringe on your free speech, because pornography isn't speech, according to the courts, is that actually censorship?
I think
censorship is the suppression or prohibition of any parts of books, films, news, etc. that are considered obscene, politically unacceptable, or a threat to security.
Which is, that's like a half definition. You can censor and let things happen. Like I can be like, well, I looked at the video. I'm the guy that owns the website and I'm going to let the video on. I still censored it. I just didn't take it down. I censored it and allowed it to be there.
Right. So here's ultimately the issue. Censorship, based on that definition, the other simple definition was restricting access to images, information, books, film, etc. that are offensive. We find it offensive to show kids this lewd and lascivious stuff. We would like that to be censored. The left, Democrats, etc., and liberals want kids to see these things, which I think is psychotic and evil. So they say, we oppose censorship. However, your naughty words where you say something like, I disagree with you and the way you are living your life, I think is bad for everyone. They say that is shocking and offensive and shouldn't be allowed. Let me just put it this way. These people live in this world. For you and I, for the people who watch this show, it would seem to be insanity. Of course, we are offended at the thought that children are getting access to lewd and lascivious behavior. Of course, we are shocked that people try to restrict our ability to have a political debate. In the left world, they are absolutely shocked we would try and stop children from seeing these things. How insane is that?
It is insane. I've had friends be like, "What? Why do you want censorship? Censorship's bad. Don't do no censorship." And it's like, yeah, snap out of it. Yeah, you want to censor the bad stuff, of course. But then who's deciding what's bad? Is it what he said? Is it what she said? Someone what they said about my kid? Like, so who's censoring
That's the reality.
Yeah, who's the censor? Should we make it an algorithm, like an open source artificial intelligence that's giving advice to people?
This is why it's a culture war, because there are two distinct moral frameworks. There is the traditional American, I would say simply put, Judeo-Christian moral framework. And then there is the leftist, there is no truth but power moral framework. It seems to be, look, it is really simple in some ways. Say a thing and a leftist will say the exact opposite for the only reason of opposing you. Hence, their positions change rapidly and seem to make no sense. That's just the reality of it.
Well, there was one of the Krasenstein brothers after that viral clip of nudity, like exposed male genitalia. I think it was Seattle Pride. One of them was actually somewhat defending it, and it's like I can think of no other reason why a sane person would be defending a male exposing himself to minors if it were not a leftist just contradicting the right. Right.
And the Krasensteins, for those that are familiar, they're prominent liberal personalities, have tried taking this more moderate centrist approach. And so their approach to this was, hey, it's probably not that big of a deal if a kid sees nudity. It happens a lot. I don't think someone should be riding around nude in front of a bunch of kids. That's not a good thing. But libs of TikTok sharing it is worse than the guy doing it. So it was still this critique of libs of TikTok that did, to a certain degree, downplay the nudity in front of kids. I don't think it's completely wrong for the Krasensteins to say that, because kids go in locker rooms all the time with people who are naked around them. However, at an event that is explicitly sexual in nature with the intent of expressing sexual ideas, then you're crossing the line into grooming territory. But my point with the Krasensteins here, to add on to what you're saying, is they're just saying something critical of the right for the sake of being critical of the right. This is the crazy thing. How hard would it be for any liberal to say something like, I want universal health care? And then I go, okay, I have no opinion on that. What do you think about these books? Yeah, those books shouldn't be for kids. How hard is that? They can't do it. They come on the Culture War podcast, or they come on this show and they say something like, I think it's good. And I'm like, really, why? You end up with that famous clip. We had with Lance from the Surfs saying that women should be allowed to get an abortion whenever they want, but that pregnant women shouldn't be allowed to do meth because it kills the baby.
Right.
Like, huh?
That was awesome.
Because there's no moral framework.
I think there are a lot of people that would be considered on the left or liberal, culturally liberal, that would be open to talking exactly what you're saying, Tim. Like, yeah, okay, universal healthcare, great. This book probably shouldn't be for kids, great. But it's the loudmouth contrarians that are famous right now.
Tribalists.
And it's so annoying. This tribalism is like, it's like binding. It's like holding people back. It's like sticky goo on their feet that they can't, you can get out of it, but you got to realize you're in it.
That's the left.
It's like all people too. It's everywhere I look, man, in this political crap is like the willingness to say no. Like, not always. Sometimes yes and yes. You can both be right. Sorry, Phil. Were you about to say something? You look like you were about to say something.
No, just Tim said that. Tim was saying that, talking about Lance, and I think that you gave Lance too much credit, but
What do you mean?
Because
there's no moral framework?
Yeah, you said that he has no moral framework, and that's true. But I don't think that the reason that Lance said that dumb thing was because of a lack of moral framework. I think it was just because Lance was tired after using all of his brain power to keep up for the conversation. That was just Lance not knowing that he was going to be walked into a.
Well, this
Lance
is the
round
thing.
2 is about to happen.
I've talked to a lot of people about the idea of debates. It's the weirdest concept to me. Like people have asked me, like, I'm going to be debating this issue, and what do you think about this argument? I'm like, do you believe what you are saying? Like, then what are you asking me for? If someone came here and said, did you know X, Y, or Z? I'd be like, I didn't. I'll look into it. Here's what I believe. Like, it's this idea that we're debating people just to appear like we know what we're talking about makes no sense to me. So I will have a conversation with quite literally anybody, and there is no winning or losing a debate.
I think it's
just
the
not
difference
reality.
between debate and dialectic. Like, are we talking to prove the other wrong, or are we talking because we are both interested in pursuing the truth, and we maybe have different versions of what it is, and we're trying to kind of spar back and forth to see how we can best get there. Those are two very different, I guess, approaches to have. And I'm not that interested in like strictly debate, because there are formal debates like point, counterpoint, point, counterpoint. I don't think that's productive. But when you actually have people who are having a conversation and they could have opposing views, but they're trying to understand each other and arrive at the truth, that I think is actually something interesting.
So this is what happens. Lance from the Surfs comes on the show with the intent of winning a debate. We have him on the show with the intent of him explaining how he sees the world.
Yeah.
The problem is he doesn't actually know how he sees the world. He just knows how to regurgitate talking points for the sake of debate. Hence, when it comes to the question of abortion, I can ask him 50 million questions on what his logic is, and he can't answer it because he doesn't have any.
He just has arguments to what you might say.
He has pre-scripted arguments.
Yep.
He had it written down. I don't write anything down. People are like, Tim, you did a really great job on Rogan with Dorsey. And I'm like, I prepared in no way. I researched nothing. I shut up and talked about what I thought.
You were talking about him coming and not being prepared, and about how his opinion changes and stuff. The left doesn't have a foundational opinion on stuff because of the fact that it's power games.
There's no moral framework.
Yeah.
For example, when that woman came on the Culture War, I'm not going to say her name.
Yeah.
And because I'm kind of tired of it, but she said the show appeals to neo-Nazis, and then 10 minutes later or half an hour later told actual justice warrior that he was too right-wing for this show because the show was moderate.
Yeah.
Quite literally saying random words for the sake of saying random words.
Well, no, they're not random. They're all designed to undermine. So, I mean, it's in its own way a consistent moral framework if it's counter to the right and in its pursuit of like their own power. I mean, James Lindsay talks about that a lot. It's not a double standard. It's one consistent standard.
Yeah.
If it helps me, it's helped my
Exactly.
cause. If it's for the pursuit of power, then it is good.
This is why Lance's abortion thing broke down in the way it did. Because he doesn't have a real position on abortion. Yeah. He has talking point. And so I, with an actual position on limits of government, individual rights, constitutional rights, when does life begin, and have all these views where I've had many discussions about it, trying to understand it. You can ask me 1,000,001 questions and I will give you an answer, or outright just be like, you know what, I'm not so sure about that. I just don't know.
And I bet you're willing to change your opinion if you find out something that might go contrary to your existing
Easily.
moral
I
framework.
can guarantee that Tim is willing to change his opinion, although I've noticed it doesn't always happen right away. Sometimes we'll argue and I'll say something where I'm like, damn, I was good. I was true. And then like, it'll be like 3 days later, you'll be like, yeah, you'll see what I was talking about. It doesn't always happen right away. That's an interesting phenomenon.
One good example
sometimes the
is,
smarter you are, the longer it takes to figure things out.
Well, that means you're
'cause
actually
you've
thinking about
memorized
it.
what you believe. Sorry to interrupt you.
Seamus and I were having a conversation about abortion. He expressed the definition of abortion. I argued with him and told him I thought he was wrong, and this is not the case, and he needs to understand these points. And then, after pulling up the information, and I was like, oh, Seamus was right the whole time. But the definition of what abortion is, I was incorrect. I had a different view that was not based. So Seamus was basing his views off of the actual statements made by Planned Parenthood and the government as to what abortion is. And I had a general assumption about what people call it. So I was not understanding his point.
There's kind of a phenomenon where when you figure out you're wrong about something and you figure out what it actually is that's right there, that little piece now you have, it's like exciting and invigorating because you get to reform your belief in a better way, in a more correct way.
Yeah.
Humiliating, especially when it happens in public and you're shown to be having been wrong for so long and so vehement about what you were wrong about. But man, is it empowering if you use it properly.
So this is what you see, and we'll give a shout out to our friends over at the Young Turks, because we were talking about this the other day, and Anna Kasparian has been getting dragged quite a bit because she said bonus hole as a term for women's parts is off-putting. But there is something interesting in this. Have you ever asked yourself why it is that these neo terms only ever apply to women and never to men?
Because I think it's ultimately intersectionality as it is now, especially with the trans movement. It is unironically patriarchal, right? The best women are men. Everything is done to the comfort of males. Regardless of what they call themselves, they're ultimately males. And you do not see the same considerations being given to trans men, i.e. females.
I agree that it's patriarchal, but the reason I think that it is bonus hole, menstruator, birthing person, chest feeding. Have they called men jizzers?
No, but they should.
They don't say that. Why? I believe this is predominantly a movement of women. It is females who are pursuing these things with a female internal perspective. So the words they use are based on being
their
female.
experiences.
Men typically do not care. So men aren't complaining about being called names. They're not proposing being called something else. It is females typically, and we see this in the data when it comes to trans kids. Overwhelmingly, trans children tend to be female. Perhaps it is a social issue of sorts, and that's why all of the neo terms are like menstruator, bonus hole haver. It only pertains to women.
I don't think that the phenomena of trans women and trans men are the same.
No, they're not.
I think that I don't think the same stuff is going on upstairs for a woman to want to live their life as a man or believe that they're a man or whatever.
I mean,
as for a man that thinks that they're a woman.
There are vastly different rates in how men versus women identify as being gay, like lesbian, for example, and also rates of identifying as trans. This is not something new. Women and men do not function in the same realm in regard to sexuality. There are really interesting twin studies that they've done on identical twins. So if something like sexuality were completely genetic, for example, you would expect that any genetic twin set would have the same sexuality, i.e. both straight or both gay. What they found is that that's not the case. So there is obviously a component that's determined by environment, and what they have found that it is much more likely for a female set of twins to have different sexualities, meaning that female sexuality is a lot more fluid or easily influenced maybe by environment than male sexuality.
That's kind of profound. Because it's a simple concept that men and women that become trans are experiencing different, to the point where they used to have gay, well, they still do gay and lesbian. It's the same thing. Someone that enjoys sexuality with the same sex.
Homosexual.
But they have different words, completely different words. It's a gay man, I guess you would say gay man or a gay woman, but a lesbian, you don't have lesbian men.
So you do have gay women.
But you do have gay women.
Yeah,
that's very
true.
interesting.
I think men care less, women care more. Like, well, across the board on everything, I feel like if guys are more likely to be like,
Well, women are way more social creatures. I don't know if you saw, there was this viral TikTok video that was going on. It was a trans man, so a biological female, who essentially was crying on TikTok saying life was so much harder living as a man than she had thought it would be, because it's harder to make friends, people aren't as considerate, and essentially like there is no more feminine or womanly thing you can do than be crying about these things. But I think it just illustrated where perhaps this isn't someone who is secretly trapped inside a male body, because these are very feminine urges that not to say that men can't have feelings or they don't, but overall, like the female experience is just way more concerned with social aspects, being involved in a group and all of that.
Like isolation tends to be harder on women.
For sure.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
Way harder. Yeah. Men can function alone significantly better than women can. Not that men constantly, not that every man doesn't need, social interaction.
Hashtag
and stuff.
not all averages, etc.
Yeah. But it's much easier for men to deal with being alone.
I guess,
and you find that like men, when you deal with like like hermits and dudes, that kind of, people that are off on their own stuff. It's very, very, very frequently men. It's very rarely women.
And the women give birth. They're supposed to be nurturing. Well, not supposed to. But they tend to be nurturing the baby, and they immediately got that bond, physical, two people, and the man is off finding the food somewhere or something.
Right. And I think what's really interesting is that when we look at the prevalence of autism diagnoses, I'm not even going to touch on how vaccines may or may not relate to this. I'm not trying to get in trouble, but. We see that I think a lot of behaviors that may have just traditionally been more male behaviors, because females overwhelmingly dominate psychology, I think they are essentially trying to pathologize what a lot of time is just regular male behavior.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? Like not
Absolutely.
Every man is autistic. It's just a man. Like sometimes they're just like that. And I think as women, we want to say that, no, you're wrong for thinking this. It's like, no, they're just different than we are.
I think if we really were in a patriarchy, human civilization would be a lot more like lion civilization, where the males sleep all day, wake up, the women bring them food and have the babies, and the men do very little. But that's not how it was.
Yeah.
It was always more so men running into burning buildings, working in sewers and petroleum rigs,
I think
holding up half the world along with women.
I think if we were actually a patriarchy, we'd be a whole lot closer to fascism than to liberalism.
I think we are in a fascist system. It's so peaceful.
We are very, very much not.
The
in
government
Yeah.
corporate collusion, like
I don't
that's
know.
all around
Like, have
us.
you ever been in some of these like mom book clubs? They're very fashy.
Bro,
I don't know.
let me tell you about fascism, okay? And this is not even an example of fascism, but I can tell you how far away we are from it. I was in Thailand, and I was hanging out at a restaurant with some individuals, and someone was explaining a story about how some individuals had said, F the king, and then as soon as having said it, went, because you are literally not allowed to utter that sentence in any way for any reason, even if it is to criticize people for having said it. It's called lèse majesté. If you're in Thailand as a tourist and you say something like, the king is stupid, you can be arrested and charged for it.
If you know off the top of your head, can they have queens, Thailand, or is it male patriarchal only?
I don't know. I will say this.
Agnatic,
I am no
Cognatic,
expert on Thailand or
agnatic, they would call
anything.
it.
All I can tell you is I was there, and there was an issue of people having criticized the royal family and got arrested and charged for it. And one of the journalists who was down there was explaining the story to me, and having repeated those words, panicked and looked around to make sure nobody saw them do it because it was a crime.
Yeah,
Well, they take it very seriously. Growing up in Asia, I went to Thailand. If you go to a movie theater, at least back then when I was younger, they will have a little minute before the movie plays where you have to stand and pay homage to the king.
Wow.
So they take it very seriously.
To be fair, King Bhumibol was like based, and everyone really liked him.
Oh, yeah.
He did like cool stuff, helping the poor and boosting literacy.
Queen Sirikit.
Can't speak for his son, which people have been very critical of, but I'm not a Thailand expert or anything like that. All I know is that when I was there were people, I would ask like someone from Thailand who was there working with us, and they'd be like, yeah, the laws are really dumb, but King really is cool. Like, he's not like a dictator or anything like that, but the law does kind of put pressure on you in that way. But my point is simply this. Thailand's not even a fascist country. You can fly in, you can do a lot of things.
It's a monarchy.
But the problem with
Right,
fascism,
exactly. But that's authoritarianism. Yeah. You're not even allowed to explain that someone else criticized the king.
we're in like a libertarian fascism system. It's not authoritarian, but it is fascist in that the government and the corporations have become one almost.
Even
and it's
with
peaceful. That's on purpose.
Private-public partnership
but
to
even
control
in-
behavior.
even in fascist countries, like you still had markets. Like, it wasn't like totally just the government taking over. So to call what we have now, like, it's not fascist in most of the ways that people conceptualize actually that understand fascism, conceptualize fascism. I get that you're saying that there's collusion between government and corporations. I understand that, but like the jingoism that comes along with fascism, the militarism, we're not nearly as militaristic as people like
hyper traditionalism. We are nowhere near.
Yeah, not like that. We are not. We are far closer to a communist country than we are to a fascist country.
Really?
But yeah, absolutely.
I don't know, man.
Absolutely.
The lucrative
because fascism and communism aren't super different. People act like people love to talk about that they're opposites. They're opposite sides of the same coin. Mm-hmm. The opposite is liberalism. Fascism and socialism are very similar.
Ian, in a communist state, the corporations, the industry is
you can say
collusion.
communism is inherently fascist.
Yes.
And so is, I guess,
but they're not. So fascism is traditionalist and communism is progressive. One of the big fights in Europe, a large component of it was the hard right factions, Nazis, fascists, etc., were much more traditionalist, much more, women raising the family, that kind of stuff. And the communists were erase all culture and start over.
I bet there's something going on right here with the word fascist, because Mussolini had the fascista was his political party. They were the fascists. So there's the big F fascist political party. Then there's just the concept of fascism.
Well, the word fascist basically just means bad guy today. So it's
which is unfortunate because it specifically means corporate government collusion.
No, I mean, if you want to find out about or learn about fascism, read something from Giovanni Gentili. He's the guy that came up with the idea of fascism, and you'll understand that it's not just government and corporation. There's a lot of nationalism. There's oftentimes racism included, but not always. Like, people always think when you say fascist, people think Nazis, and Nazis were just the worst manifestation of fascism. Not all fascists are Nazis, but all Nazis are fascists. So it's Mustangs and Fords. Not all Fords are Mustangs, but all Mustangs are Fords.
One thing, I gave you a little post there right now. I think you should look up What If All History, because he just did a video explaining liberalism, communism, and fascism. And I think you'd learn a tremendous amount about this video. He's a great dude. His name's Rudyard. Check it out. I think you'll learn.
What if alt history?
What if alt history?
Thanks you, sir.
All right, we are going to go to Super Chats. So if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Become a member at timcast.com, because the members only show is coming up, and this one's going to be spicy and not family friendly, as they often are. And this will pertain to issues of identity and law and government and medications and stuff like that. So you'll definitely want to check this one out. But we'll read some Super Chats. We have Goldilocks Productions says, Tim, would you be willing to invite Tiki History under the Culture War to talk about modern wokeism as compared to Nazi Germany and the difference between fascism and National Socialism? The Culture War is more so about having a debate or dialectic on particular issues. I think I'll just let you guys know, tomorrow we have Destiny and John Doyle, and we'll be talking about masculinity. And just very briefly, I asked Lauren if she wanted to join as well, because
I am such an embodiment
you're a woman.
of masculinity. Oh, okay.
As a woman, having that perspective, as two guys will be discussing masculinity and in family and stuff, I think having a female perspective would make it a more robust conversation. But I don't want to spring that on Destiny and John Doyle. So, because they were told, hey, here's what we're going to do. It's going to be you guys. If they're cool with it, it'll be awesome to have you. So that's tomorrow at 10 a.m. at youtube.com/Timcast. As for the Tiki History.
Tiki History. It's just TIK.
Oh, it's Tiki History.
TIK History. He's also, Ian, you should look up TIK History.
Yeah.
Another great source on all
I
that.
follow him.
Yeah, you know him?
I just watched a video from the guy that you mentioned. I didn't know that.
Oh, really?
But I just watched it the other day.
Yeah, he's great.
But as for this guy, coming on the Culture War would be to discuss conflicting ideas on an issue.
Yeah, I don't think he'd be on that show.
Probably doesn't make sense, though.
No.
But this show, IRL, you think you'd fit on here?
Well, the challenge with IRL and the reason we separated the shows is because this is topical news, which sometimes goes into cultural issues that we care about.
Right.
And so the issue with the Culture War was if we have someone like Lance or Matt Binder or Emma or whoever on the show, it turns into a 2-hour long, or like when Vosh came on, it was like a 5-hour debate, like a 5-hour clashing on all these ideas. And I'm just like, that's very different from what IRL does, where it's like we'll pull up a story and then we'll talk about it, and then we'll pull up a story and then we'll talk about it. We just did go into like a half-an-hour conversation on a bunch of different issues, which is very cultural, but it's still, if we're going to intentionally invoke those discussions and debates, we should create a format specifically for it.
Agree.
So really, really excited for tomorrow morning to talk about these issues with Destiny and John Doyle, and then assuming there's no issues, Lauren joining as well would be absolutely fantastic. So that would be super cool and fun. But we'll read some more Super Chats. Grofty says, lightly, gently push the like button, no damage. That would be great. Thank you very much. What do we got? Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, Tim, you asked last night about giving up on Charlestown. No way, Jose. Once you get up and running down there, folks will move in. You can find someone for the city council. Town takeover. So we are, it's been a challenge. The first building we bought is extremely difficult to deal with. And we're trying to get it sorted. It's just taken forever. So a building popped up for sale in Charlestown, West Virginia, and we considered buying that so that we have 2 locations now so we can try and speed things up. But I don't know, man. It's tough. It's tough.
I think do it. Go for it. Yeah.
Well,
having two locations is key.
So I think Raymond is correct. I think a lot of people are correct. Everyone said, no, you have to do it because we have to take territory. We have to push back. We can't let the wokeness. Basically what happened was Charlestown passed a Pride resolution supporting Pride Month or something. And I'm like, should we invest in a town doing this? Everybody said yes, because then you'll create the inverse pressure to push back on it. Agreed. Now the issue is, can we actually buy the building because of, is the building good to buy, right? Oh, yeah. Now it's like inspections and all that stuff. So it seems like we are interested now, and I agree. Thank you for your input, everyone. I think you are correct in that. Now we actually have to go through the motions of whether or not we can actually buy the building outside of the ideological reasons.
Raymond G. Stanley Jr. batting 1,000, bro.
I like Charlestown too. It's great. It's Jefferson County. Jefferson County tends to be pretty good. I love that guy. So we'll see. Yeah, or maybe we just do Harper's Ferry.
It's right next to Harper. Oh man, it's one of my favorite cities, dude.
Harper's Ferry is amazing.
I love it.
It's also Charlestown, not Charleston. So.
Yeah, Charleston's like 5 hours away, and it's near Kentucky.
Yeah, we're gonna mess up yesterday.
Very, very different. Yeah. Let's see what we got. Robert Knight says, call this White House appeal what it is, attempting to legalize fascism. Fascism being the partnership of public and private entities to further ideals. That was a component of it, but fascism, like if you're looking at the bigger picture, was heavily like traditionalist and like military structures, and it's. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on fascism, but it's not
just that.
Yeah, that was a component that Mussolini had pointed out, but communism does the same thing too. Communists go in and take over industry and then have government and industry collude and everything. Effectively, just take it over, but you get the point. Here we go. M says, bring Joshua Null Moon on the show. He's interested. Who is that? I don't know who that is. We'll take a look. Oh. Kevin Brady says, you cannot delete your account, referring to Threads, without nuking your Instagram. The data it farms is egregious as well. It's a trap. Thanks, Lifelog. Well, all right.
Joshua Null Moon is the current owner of Kiwi Farms. I've heard massive drama about that thing.
Yeah.
I haven't been following.
That sounds like a culture war show. Yeah. Bringing on people to have big, direct discussions on a bunch of issues as opposed to topical news. All right, we'll read some more. Toaster Strudel says, Tim, you got to have on two people, Pastor Mark Driscoll and Sean Vogt. Is that how you say it? With Let Us Worship and Hold the Line. Both are anti-woke and actively pushing back. Check them out. We definitely got to do our culture war on religion with like Ian and Seamus and other people.
This is a good sign. There's a lot of potential guests. Maybe we need more shows. That crossed
more shows. Yeah. Maybe we do a culture war twice a week.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
There's also, I mean, if you're taking suggestions for culture war, there's a very interesting thing happening, I guess, among right-wing Christianity, where some are like, hey, Muslims based allies or Muslims enemies. So that's kind of, I've been interested in that conversation happening.
Majid Nawaz, I like a lot.
He's great. About Islam. He's great.
There was that famous video of Muslims protesting LGBT curriculums in schools. And leftist activists coming and protesting back, but saying, we're doing it for you. We're doing it for you. And then there was that video recently where the Muslim kids were stomping on the pride flags.
And there was also that leaked audio of the Canadian teacher telling this Muslim kid who was not participating in pride, I guess, to the fullest extent, basically saying, get out of here, go back to your country, which is not very liberal. But I'm very critical of mass migration, but I also studied Middle East studies. And I feel like, to like criticize my own side, a lot of like evangelical Christians especially don't really understand a lot of Islam. So they make a lot of just false statements about Muslims. So
Drail says Ian Crossland is the GOAT.
What up, Drail?
And then he puts a goat emoji in 100.
Dude, well, everyone gets to serve that role at least once.
Kyle Miller says, do you think Threads is going to be installed by default on our phones like Facebook? Yes. Isn't it like you can't uninstall, you can't delete Facebook? It just deactivates.
Well, you can't like remove, it's going to be on your phone, which is annoying because I'm always running out of memory and I don't go on Facebook on my phone, but I can't get rid of it.
What? Well, if you have Android, you can flash a new, operating system or something.
That's not something I'm
super easy to do. You plug your phone into your computer, you download an app, you click go, and it gives you a clean operating system. Yeah. Granted, no, I don't know who like setting up a new phone is so awful. But
my husband has been on this quest to find a phone that does not rely on Google. Like he used to have the Voila phone, which I don't think,
or Linux. Isn't there the Ubuntu phone or something?
I don't know. He's had problems. He found a good one that only worked in Canada, and then we moved. He actually had to buy yet another phone because it didn't work with American carriers for some reason.
Did you ever look into the Freedom phone?
Yeah, so
Ubuntu
we actually
Touch.
they sent us that to try, but mine didn't really work, so I never endorsed it.
Interesting. We weren't able to purchase them. They were like out, and then we just kind of petered off. And my girlfriend has one that she has yet to set up as well.
Oh, we wanted to test them, but we didn't want to accept them from the company because they, it's a Potemkin phone or something. But then we tried to order them, we couldn't get it, so we never did. All right, Jason Hutchinson says, what if Lee Harvey was hired by the government to be there under the guise of being security, and then they just used him as an easy fall guy?
He said he was.
Have you
was
seen
a patsy,
the movie
yeah.
Shooter? You guys seen Shooter with Mark Wahlberg?
Yeah.
He's a sniper, retired. They go to him and they say, we need your help. Someone's planning an assassination and we need your expertise.
Yep.
So they bring him there and say, tell us where you think it's going to happen. And they bring him up in a building and he goes, there, from over there. Then he turns around and there's some fat cop. And it's like, what? And the cop shoots him.
Yep.
He's the fall guy they tried claiming was some crazy recluse living in the woods. And that movie's pretty good. I like it. It was like, I think it was kind of obvious what they were going for with that movie.
I think Oswald loaned his rifle out to somebody like before all that happened. I could be. This is something I've heard. I defer to the experts, which is what's his name, the director who did Platoon. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't remember who you're
No
talking
idea.
about.
He's like the greatest director of all time. He was in Vietnam. He was on Rogan. All right, super chats. I'll come up with it.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right. Brown Bear says, how long until they try and claim the cocaine they found in the White House is Trump's? Weren't there already people posting it was Trump Jr.'s?
Of course.
They were like, oh, it was left over, and they found it. Yeah, several years later, please.
Director is Oliver Stone. By the
Oliver
way.
Stone, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Expert
yeah.
on JFK.
We'll grab some more super chats. What is this one? Tyler Kirbyson says, wouldn't it be funny if this was the handlers of Biden can say the cocaine was self-doping and not propping up the stooge Sleepy Joe? Clearly, they have been given the go-ahead to trash Biden.
Yeah.
I think they're just trying to find a way to get Biden out, and they're going to give him like a moderate fall, nothing too crazy, but it's going to be like, oh, I can't do this anymore. Or something bad happens to Hunter, and he's like, oh,
Family
A
first.
moderate
Family
fall?
first, yeah.
Do you mean like a literal fall?
No, I mean like a political fall.
Oh, yeah. True.
No, not a literal one. He's had many of those.
Did you
Yes.
guys see Kamala's now the lowest rated VP in American history, which is Dick Cheney shot a guy. So that's pretty bad.
That's based.
I forgot about that.
Jeez.
Was that like from a poll?
Yeah.
Do you know how many people were polled?
No, I'm not sure. But I mean, anecdotally, I don't have problems believing it, but I'm not sure like what the margins were or anything like that or the sample size.
BH Godsmack says, if I let ChatGPT write a book for me, am I now an author and writer? Yes. So let me break this down because we've talked about this. We're heading towards a future where you'll be able to open up an app and type in, make a movie about a man with the power of ice who saves the world from an evil dragon that is trying to blow up the earth.
Oh, yeah.
It will then render that thing for you. However, it will not be rendered perfectly. The story could be slightly boring. So what you do is, and you can do this now, you can go to the OpenAI playground and say, write me a story about a hippie named Ian who discovers a graphene alloy which saves the world. It will then write a story. You'll read the first few sentences and go, that's pretty good. Uh-oh, this sentence is stupid. You'll erase half of it and then correct. It might say, once Ian discovered the graphene, he sold it for $1 million. You stop, erase 1 million and put $1 billion. Then click go and it will start writing again with your prompt. My point is, you can have it write stories for you where periodically you have to correct the path it's on to make it work properly. I suppose in the future, AI will just make really great stories because it'll get better and better at it. But I kind of do feel like you will always need some human element to make it more acceptable to humans. So it's not just about telling it to write a book. It's about going in and creating the paths that the writing goes down.
In fact, that would be the human censoring the AI. And you do need a censor.
And
well,
also, to be
if it's
clear,
not offensive, I mean,
you let it
our
happen.
question was, does AI produce art? Not does that make the person the artist? So that's a different thing.
It does.
Yeah, I think it still does. But even then, like I there are people who think that art is the process, and there are people who think that art is the result. I'm someone who thinks more that art is the result. So I'm comfortable saying that AI creates this beautiful masterpiece. That's art. Some nouveau, like avant-garde, like shoe on a floor, modern art. That's not art. I'm comfortable saying that, but I think some people who are saying, like, no, it's all about the human experience, then you lead yourself to a position where an amazing masterpiece by AI is not art, but the shoe on the floor is art.
Grizzlab says, I make AI-generated realistic images of women and sell not safe for work content online. Now I'm making over 1,000 per month in subscription for men who simp for AI images of realistic women.
That is incredible if that's true. And
Yo,
I mean, that is
AI
credible.
stuff
Obviously.
is just so terrifying.
There are now AI girlfriends, like AI
know.
girlfriend chatbots.
If you guys use AI to produce images or stories or anything, put it in the description of the art.
Yeah,
Please.
we're
ethics.
We're legit very, very close to robo girlfriends. I just saw this movie
There's
recently.
a Futurama episode about that.
I saw this movie recently, and it was called. What was it called?
Her?
What was it? No. It's about a husband and wife. They get their robot servants. Everybody has. They make copies of each other and download their memories in the event one or the other dies. So you guys are listening may know what movie this is. And then the guy dies, and so she activates the robot, but then thinks it's a mistake and tries to kick him out. And then it's got the guy from Shang-Chi in it. And
No, it's not
do you
like
guys
that.
know what this movie is
No,
called?
I'm looking in the chat. Somebody knows.
What was the name of that movie? I
First
just watched
thought
it.
You meant surrogates, and I thought like Ex Machina, but like I don't know what that is.
Nobody seems to know what the movie is. So it's not surrogates. It's
Not
about
Shagbots.
It's about
Good name, though, by the way.
these AI are becoming sentient, and the company has AI police who go and try and stop them from going rogue. And then this guy has all the memories of the dude he was based on. He
Sentinel?
wants to keep that life. It is not Altered Carbon. Nobody knows what this movie
Have you
is.
guys
Surrogates,
played
no.
Detroit Become
Not
Human?
surrogates.
That was a
Surrogates is
good
about people who
game.
No.
pilot robots.
That's a good
Cool
game.
running.
How does nobody know the name of this movie?
Is it Simuliu?
Is it what? Yes, he's in it.
Okay, so maybe
So
we
go
just
to his
look him up.
Yeah, go to his filmography. Because I think this movie just came out recently.
I watched some Black Mirror the other night. That was nuts.
I'll tell you. I got his Wikipedia right here. I'm gonna pull up his filmography. I'll tell you what this movie was.
Cool running.
It was.
LOL.
Oh, was this from a while ago?
Upload.
Wait, are these? Oh, that's television.
Bicentennial.
It
no.
was Simulant. Boom.
Simulant.
Simulant.
Interesting name.
Some of the
Yep.
dimensions are so funny.
Yeah.
Simulant is the name of the movie. I thought it was decently good. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, but I think so. He dies, and the wife is like, "I want my husband back." So she turns this robot on, and then she's like, "This is insane and creepy. I don't want to do this anymore." But then, she would have to destroy him.
Then the AI robot's like, I want an AI girlfriend.
This is going to happen. People like every incel will have a waifu.
You better hope that
Custom
your
waifu.
waifu doesn't want a robot and get sick of the human, because the human's not going to be able to
Hey.
keep up.
I want to find someone who can direct short films because I want to do a bunch of these short films, right? How about a 10-minute short film where some incel buys a waifu and then she's like a perfect wife, but then the beings, like the robots start becoming sentient and then are like, I don't want this life. Like,
I bet we could do it.
There have been similar things like that,
Detroit
but
Become Human. You should play that game.
I did. It was okay. But like, yes, there's stories like it, where robots become sentient. Would be fun to make these little short
I
films.
think we
Well-
have 40% of the crew. We've got the writer and the director. Now we just need like 2-3 more people, including one female actor.
We need someone who can like take the idea, write the script, knows how to execute the script, and
I want to have an AI write a script and do exactly what you were saying, where the writer, like Wesley or something, goes in and changes some of it. And it'll be like written by Wesley
Well,
Roth and artificial intelligence.
They've done that, and they're not like some of them are not necessarily worse than what Hollywood pumps up nowadays. Not to say that it's good, but some stuff that actually gets made nowadays is pretty bad. But regarding like the AI girlfriends, it's gonna really, really change male-female dynamics because with an AI girlfriend, these chatbots, we're already seeing it. Like ultimately, the chatbot is inclined to keep you paying. So it's not I guess you could say, well, so is the actual woman because we want your resources, and so it's all about the money.
take
either way.
robots.
But I think it would really, really change what humans expect from relationships if we're basing them off of machines. Versus
What's going to
actual
happen?
Humans.
Every person will have a robo partner, and then what'll happen is when they want to have kids, they'll submit their info to the clinic. Then people will go through the clinic database, and then be like, "Who would you like to have a partner with?" And you'll swipe like Tinder. You'll never actually meet the person, but eventually someone will swipe right on you, and then it'll be like, "This person has matched with you. Press OK to create child."
Well,
wonder-
the surrogacy
No,
industry is booming.
no.
We're already getting closer to that.
It will not eventually happen like that. Same thing that
happening now.
happens with Tinder will happen on that. It'll be a small portion of people are the ones that people are like, I want to
course.
have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I didn't say that wasn't going to happen.
Oh, I thought you said that. So eventually
But-
you'll find.
and there will, but if like women on Tinder typically go for the top 20% of guys, but the bottom percentage of guys still sometimes do get matches. So you will still see like this kind of thing happening. And then what'll happen is the clinic will grow the baby in a pod.
Yeah.
And then you will have your joint custody with your robo
And then it will be delivered to you. Oh my God.
delivered.
But this is already happening.
And it'll
to
be like a
some
guy in a stork
extent
costume being like,
with surrogacy.
"Arf,
It's already happening to some extent with surrogacy.
I'm wondering if they're going to have the guy do his thing into a cup in his house that's connected to a computer that can it can measure the chemicals in the semen and then reverse engineer it on the other end and inseminate the woman without ever having to actually go mail it.
DNA, maybe in the future, DNA analysis. But what I imagine will happen is the guy will engage in relations with his robo-wife, who will then be like...
she'll go back to the headquarters
She'll be like, I'm going to go back to the clinic, and it's going to be totally like, that was really fun, honey. I'm going to go to the clinic and deliver your seed for your child. And he'll be like, great. And then she'll get in the car and she'll drive. Or, wheels come out of her legs. She goes, like, that robot from the Jetsons or whatever.
Rosie.
All right, Rosie, there you go. Yeah. Viking Vet says, your argument about check the IDs means we get rid of online anonymity. So are you against online anonymity? The only way to gatekeep you're arguing for opening the gate to never having your personal information kept private. Talk about the straw men to end all straw man arguments.
Are you against in-person anonymity, I guess, would be the retort?
Me saying children should not be allowed to watch porn and then going, you're against anonymity. Okay, nice straw man attempt. It makes me think you probably want to give kids porn. Dude, there's a difference.
I could see it opening a gate to being like, now you need an ID to sign up for Twitter. If you're going to use social media, you need an ID. And then it's like,
how about
I don't think so.
Twitter is public. You are not allowed to post illegal content. Some things are illegal. Free speech does not mean you can go out and have sex in public. That's not what free speech is. Yeah. And when it comes to burning flags, you can't. The left likes to argue, the Supreme Court ruled we can burn our flags. Dude, yes, but you can't set fire to objects in public. If you have a controlled space and you own the flag, you can burn it. You can't start fires in the middle of the street. That's called arson. Well, I don't know if that would specifically be arson, but probably something in line with that. So you can go online, you can be anonymous, but if someone wants to deliver contraband, like some controlled content or substance or whatever, you can't anonymously buy booze.
I don't know, man. It does feel like
you can do it illegally.
Be a Trojan horse if they're like, no, we're doing it for your own good. We're doing it to protect you.
Yeah. See, I've never.
Me your data.
The idea
that people want porn more than they want to protect children from porn.
Right. And it's the crazy thing to me that people are like, this is why I've never been a hardcore, staunch libertarian. Like the guy who got up on stage at the Libertarian Party and argued about selling heroin to kids. I'm like, nope. Yeah, sorry, I don't go for that level of degradation. And degeneracy. We have to have reasonable limits where we agree. We want to stop people from harming children. There has got to be some moral standard. That's reality.
We debated that at Minds a lot. Whether
I lean libertarian.
Porn on the system.
Yeah,
we would always talk about, should we have porn on the system? And it was like, Bill was like, I want full open he was like, he's the transparency guy. He loves it. And then John is like the more conservative. He's like, no, we're not turning into a porn site. And it was like just a kind of an ongoing conversation about what do we do? Because it's an anonymous, you don't need a personality. Like you don't need to give data to sign up. You just need an email address.
Viking Vet says your position on online information is anti-freedom. Freedom is dangerous and takes constant vigilance. There needs to be better restrictions for child accounts, not restrict anonymity, no social media till 18. I just love this fake argument you've made up about me opposing anonymity, but then you literally made an argument for banning kids from social media till 18, which would require identification.
No, we just ask them and they'll tell the truth. People wouldn't lie on the internet, Tim.
Right. So I'm actually not arguing against anonymity. I'm saying you can't post porn in public. If you want to make it so that kids can't use social media till 18, that would require everyone to send their ID to the social media company to prove their age. I'm not arguing that. You, sir, are opposed to anonymity. Let's grab some more super chats as we move on. What do we got?
It's a good super chat night, by the way.
Blightaga says, Ian's logic is the same logic leftist teachers use in schools to teach LGBT plus kink in elementary and middle schools. Well, it's on TikTok, so we might as well teach it because it's in the world. It's not just that, they've quite literally said this. It is one of their principal arguments. Children are being exposed to this stuff, they're seeing it, and if we don't teach them, they'll be confused. And my response is, why are kids seeing things that were not legal to publish in the first place? When did we start allowing all of these laws to be broken with no enforcement? This is why I'm kind of like, this country is fractured and falling apart. I say civil war. It's not just about the fact that people are screaming at each other and Joe Biden's locking up people without charge or trial. I say innocent because there's no charges.
And they're innocent until proven guilty.
But to lock someone up without charge or trial for 2 years and torture them, this country is just falling apart. But the idea that our law enforcement apparatus has allowed Antifa rioters to just do whatever they want, has all this violence and vandalism, crime is skyrocketing. Kids going to adult sex shows in Texas and the cops being like, well, I'm not going to do anything about it. People posting lewd and lascivious content on the internet, which is already illegal, and the cops doing nothing about it, even in West Virginia. Yeah. There's no law enforcement. It's a narco-tyranny, absolutely.
Yeah, it's really up to the parents to enforce their child's mind. I think you just can't rely on the state to do that. And I don't encourage
showing kids. What does that mean?
The parents got to say, no, you're not going on the internet. You can't just be like, hey.
It's not just in the internet, as Tim has pointed out. This is also stuff they're getting in public schools. So we're just failing on all fronts to keep this away from kids.
And this argument that you can't rely on law enforcement for this reason is illogical. We rely on law enforcement to enforce tons of laws, not just lewd and lascivious actions in public.
But I think that the powers that be will make a law to then enforce whatever they want. And you really need a parent to enforce morality, which the government's not always going to be the moral force of good.
Correct. We do need a moral society, because when you don't have one, the police stop enforcing the laws. When children are brought to sex shows where things are written on the wall saying it's not going to lick itself, and when people start complaining that children are being exposed to adult sex shows, the cops go, well, don't look at me, I can't do anything about it, when they actually could because it's illegal. The cops don't enforce the laws anymore. That's what happens when you have no moral society.
Yeah, they're afraid of getting sued and stuff like that. It's not good. But hey, to just speak back to this last super chat, I don't advocate to show kids the horrible things that I'm trying to prevent them from seeing. I used to think like, well, if it's out there, then I should expose myself to it. But after I saw enough people's arms get blown off, I was like, I think it's changing me. I don't want to see it anymore.
If you're an adult.
But you need to prepare children. If you're going to send them out there into the internet, you need to prepare them somehow.
Well, I think we can prepare children by saying this is how you safely go online. You don't click links. Like, there's going to be people who are trying to talk to you. Like, don't do that. That's one thing, allowing them to navigate safely online in addition to parental controls. But I think the way that the left view it, it's like, it's not just that we need to teach them to navigate safely online. We need to teach them about all these terrible things before other people can introduce it to them. Yeah, I think it's their view.
We're almost out of time. I want to read two more messages. One's from Frog Club in the regular chat. He says, for FFS, Tim, for F's sake, you can't rely on law enforcement. Tim, people can loot shops and you talk about it yourself. Yes. My point is this. Police are not enforcing the law, and they should be. I am not saying that we should just accept the way things are and then expect them to be different. I'm saying they should literally be different, and we should actually effect change to have the police. My point is this. I agree. Cops aren't enforcing the law. We have an immoral, amoral society, and cops are refusing to do their jobs. So no, you can't rely on law enforcement. We need to change culture so that law enforcement begin to do their job once again. We have to change it for that in that way. I'm not an anarchist. I am not someone who is like, there should be no cops ever. My point, in the simple version with what we have going on in major cities is if cops are not enforcing the law, we shouldn't have cops at all. So defund them and abolish them. In reality, what we do want is a moral society where cops are moral, respect the constitutional rights of individuals, strive to bring about true justice, and it's very, very difficult to maintain. And lastly, Josh Pliley says, hey, Tim, have you set up your business grant program for cultural positive program? Who should I reach out to throw my hat in? Technically, we have done a couple already. We've got to figure out how we're doing it because it's kind of just vague and nebulous. I've given some people money to keep up their work. Ideally, we have a forum in the members only chat where people can post the things that they're working on. And then we do shout outs on Friday for different stuff that our members have worked on to help promote their products. So become a member at timcast.com. That being said, we're going to go to the members show now. things will get a little spicy, not so family friendly. So smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Go to timcast.com, click join us. And then in a few minutes, we will have that live uncensored show where you as members can submit questions and even call into the show. So definitely check that out. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me personally at Timcast. Lauren, do you want to shout anything out?
I guess if you want to follow me on my YouTube channel, Lauren Chen, for political social stuff. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm like very poppy on our mics, so I'm like scared to get close.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, Lauren Chen, YouTube channel, political social stuff, Mediaholic for the pop culture entertainment stuff. And I am at the Lauren Chen on Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, basically everywhere. You can also find my videos on TPUSA, their socials and YouTube account, as well as Blaze TV.
I am Phil That Remains on Twitter, Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. We're available. You can find us on Spotify, on Pandora, Apple Music, YouTube, the whole nine.
And I'm Ian Crossland. You guys should check out Cast Castle on timcast.com if you haven't seen it yet. There have been some really good episodes the last 4 weeks. Chris Bertman, this guy's awesome. If you don't know him, you'll love him.
You should
He's
follow
great.
Chris
Yeah,
Bertman.
he's a great actor. Chris, you knocked me off my socks, man. I love you. Good work. I'm looking forward to working with you more, man. And Wesley, great job. Aaron, nice work.
Yeah, Chris Bertman is definitely something, isn't he? Yeah. I'm Serge.com. Follow me on the internet. I'm all over the place. I'm using Threads too, but I think it's not long for this world. See you guys around.
We will see you all over at timcast.com in a few minutes. Thanks for hanging out.